are live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
And tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 2014 movie Nightcrawler. Nathan, do you have a history of Nightcrawler?
I saw this one in the theaters,
Okay, really? Huh.
and I enjoyed it. Yeah. I heard good things about it, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of this weird offbeat film about a creep who does creepy things at night in Los Angeles. I was like, okay, that's literally all I knew about it. I didn't know about news stringers or anything. It had kind of a cool soundtrack and trailer, so it's like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, we'll check this out. And so I watched it in theaters. There was a lot of people there, so
Okay.
I think there was a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal recognition. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly low budget movie and it had some mainstream success, so it's good for the movie. So I got some
it's another
Oscar
movie about
nominations.
an alien. So, yeah. I watched a movie last week about an alien and watched a movie this week about an alien. So.
On my way over, I was like comparing it to Taxi Driver, and I was like, which movie's better? Because I think everyone would just automatically say Taxi Driver, but like it might be Nightcrawler.
Yeah, it could be.
I think
I don't know.
I think like the genius of this movie is it actually has a lot to say about America without directly stating it whatsoever. So.
Yeah.
Whereas like Taxi Driver is more about like, disaffected lonely men and what they'll do with their free time when they have no hope.
Yeah.
Or this movie's like kind of the same thing, but about like a small business owner.
Yeah, it's kind of a movie about like yeah, it's like the main character in this is Lou is what's his name? Lou Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah, is obviously like some kind of sociopath or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
He's someone who like really doesn't have emotions or feelings or connections, but he's like, oh, it's the worst guy to put in service to a system that rewards like just over the top violence and mayhem being recorded and fed into people's living rooms for for money, for ratings, to get eyes on the news. And it's like, yeah, you just let a devil loose in the hen house. Like you don't know where this is going to go, but it's like a guy like this is capable of anything because there's no restraint on his behavior. It's just like what's he willing to not get caught doing.
But like, and then like, if you look at it from like the psychotic, like stockholder side of it, it's like, well, he's a self starter. He's building his business. He's a hard worker, and just ignore all the bad things he does. It's like, yeah, look at his results. It's like, yeah, but what do you do? It's like, we're stockholders. We don't care what you do if you bring the money in.
It's just the bottom line. He's just the less successful version of the guy from American Psycho.
Yeah.
Just like he didn't have the cool education and everything behind him to get him into these investment firms or whatever.
But became the exact same person.
It's essentially the same thing. Unless American Psycho is all a hallucination of American greed, which the author has indicated, like, yeah, that whole thing is just like, that's never really happened. It's just an internal fantasy he was having because of his inability to cope with the world. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense too. Not in the case of this movie. This guy is exactly what he pretends to
be. At the end of the movie, it's this weird dream-like kind of sequence where it's like, and it has uplifting music, and it's like, well, clearly this is antithesis to what's actually happening on screen.
Oh, this whole movie is like, it plays uplifting music. Like, oh, the hero is developing. He's winning. He's moving corpses around at the scene of a crash, and they're playing like upbeat, exciting music deliberately. Like I read it. This is the interview with the director. It's like, no, we did that on purpose because this is what's going on in his mind. It's the soundtrack in his mind. It's like, I'm doing it. I'm making things happen. I'm making connections. I'm clicking on all cylinders here. But to the rest of us is like, that's a dead body he's dragging around just to frame a scene.
I also feel it's like it's real that weird that like I guess there's other movies called Nightcrawler, but like this is the movie that got called Nightcrawler. um,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I most know. I mean, the most famous Nightcrawler character is the X-Men character, but you know, they aren't going to make a Nightcrawler movie with X-Men, an X-Men Nightcrawler movie. So. Although that White House scene was really cool.
It was, yeah. Oh yeah.
um. There we go. So yeah, this is directed and written by Dan Gilroy, who this is probably this is his best thing, but
Yeah.
he has a whole family that's associated with this stuff. Because so his fraternal twin brother is the editor on this movie, John Gilroy. And I think it's his older brother, Tony Gilroy, is the producer on this movie. Their father was like a Pulitzer Prize winning author. So like, this is like,
Yeah.
so, and it's kind of interesting because like Jake Gyllenhaal also has like kind of a weird Hollywood family too. So it's like kind of weird coalescing of Hollywood families. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Tony Gilroy, because I did see that Dan did write episodes of Andor, but I incorrectly thought he created it, where it's his brother created Andor and wrote most of the episodes there, because that's, you know, it's a brilliant Star Wars series.
Yeah, it's the best thing they've ever done with that. Yeah.
And Tony, he wrote like Armageddon and stuff like that, and then he ended up writing like the whole Bourne Identity trilogy. And then his brother Dan wrote the Bourne Legacy kind of reboot. So, you know, it's involving the family some more there. And then maybe like some of Tony's most famous thing is, I don't know, are you a big Michael Clayton fan?
I've seen the movie, yeah.
Okay, we'll have to watch that sometime, because
Yeah, it gets referenced a lot on a lot of things I listen to.
yeah, and
It's always like the ultimate fixer is like, oh, these are the people that do all the evil work for people. And it's like, oh, okay.
Well, I remember listening to a podcast, and like two of the people on the podcast had never seen the movie before, and they like came away from it thinking it was like one of the best movies they've ever seen. And I've always had like there's good parts of it, but a fairly low opinion of that movie. It's like it seemed like the themes were obvious. I thought it was hilarious that Tilda Swinton got an Oscar for a movie she's in for like literally 7 minutes. Uh, like there's some good dialogue, but I really didn't care about the plot at all. But I guess now that I'm older, if I watched it, because I guess there's like themes of like, you know, legacy and like starting over again that would probably make more sense. That like, oh, this is what everyone sees in this movie. So just gonna see it at the time, but I don't know. So I didn't know if you're one of those like, because if I were to compare the brothers' movies, I think Nightcrawler is the best among them, and then maybe Michael Clayton's below that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that together because I haven't seen it in years. So
okay. But yeah, and Dan also, he did Velvet Buzzsaw, which is kind of has a lot of like cast from this movie, or maybe just Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm not sure, but that's like a movie. It's basically a horror movie that tries to be like an art piece and really just ends up being a horror movie. That's kind of funny.
yeah, I remember we watched it for the show, and it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is.
I never saw, was it Edmund Israel Esquire? So I never saw that, so I don't know what that's about.
Never seen that.
So that's kind of like his 3 movies. He's got something he's working on right now, but
He's married to Renee Russo.
yes, which makes sense because she's in this movie. Or is weird that he puts her in like the most uncomfortable character in the movie. So. It's like you're gonna be the one person that this guy focuses on way too much from multiple like perspectives and stuff like. Shot by Robert Elswit, which is kind of like I don't know. He's like a workman director of photography for most of his career, and then like he got with like, then he started doing like basically all the Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and then Worked with Clooney a lot. Worked with both the Gilroys. um, so yeah, he's done a lot of good movies, and some bad ones too. Like he did like Geely and Salt, one of my least favorite movies.
Wow.
He shot The Town, which we gotta watch that sometime.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good one.
shot a bunch of the Mission Impossible movies. I guess he's the only director of photography to shoot a Bond movie, a Bourne Identity movie, and a Mission Impossible movie. So, pretty versatile
Oh,
guy.
okay.
Also did Heist, the David Mamet movie. So,
Okay. Yeah, I remember
which I don't know if that's a good movie, but it might be a great movie. Lots of A pluses in the columns, and sometimes it's like, why does this movie feel empty and unpointless? It's like, I don't know, but it's cool.
I remember that being a very good looking movie.
Yeah.
I think was it the one of the last movies that Gene Hackman did?
Oh no, he did. Well, maybe. Well, I think it was like
When was that? That was like
Welcome to
early.
Mooseport or something. Was like his last movie, but I can't remember what that was.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Because
it's
I thought
around
that
there.
was
Yeah, Welcome to Mooseport was 2004. So yeah, that wasn't.
okay.
Yeah, so it's like one of his last 5 movies he did.
Okay.
Now he just
Now
like,
he's an author.
huh?
Now he's an author.
Oh, really? Okay. I just know him now of like people paparazzi taking pictures of him. Like I don't know, was he in his like late 80s or stuff, getting like
He's in
Wendy's
his
and his.
mid 90s.
Oh, okay. Just
Yeah.
getting Wendy's in like a pickup truck, and he seems to be doing fine. He doesn't look. I mean, you see, he looks like an old man. Like you can't hide that, but he seems to be like getting around and doing stuff. So. Um,
He's still right. He's a rides his motor or his bicycle a lot.
oh, okay.
Yep. And I know he's done some books. But
Um,
it's one of those books where it's like I'm really passionate about this, but this is an amateur historian with
oh.
like no money, so we're going to come together on this, which is cool. I mean, it gives that guy exposure.
So yeah, the cast of Nightcrawler is Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, and Bill Paxton. Which I was like, is this one of his last roles? But I think he still had like another 5 years of roles after this. But um,
Yep, and that like his partner in this, that Riz Ahmed. It's like I've seen that guy everywhere since then, because but this was the first movie I remember him being in.
oh, what else is he in?
Oh, he's in a lot of he does a lot of British stuff because that's where he's from.
Oh, okay.
But he was
Oh,
also in
he's in Rogue One. That's Tony wrote that.
yeah, he's in Rogue One. I remember him in that, and then so that was the next thing he did, I think. And oh, what are some other things he's done?
I've heard good things about Sound of Metal. I haven't seen it. Looks like he's the main guy
Yeah.
in that. Which he's like a metal drummer who loses his hearing.
Yes, I remember that.
Oh, he was in the OA. I never watched that, but I remember you did.
Yep. I remember him in that. He also there's a movie where he plays like a U.S. vet, and he kind of has a nervous breakdown and takes his sons, and like everyone's after him because they're like, this guy's crazy. He's going to kill his kids because he thinks they're going to meet aliens or something. And the movie's kind of dumb, but his performance is great in it because it's just sad, because you're like, oh, is he going to see the aliens? It's like, is this true? Is everyone misjudging him? It's like, no, it's no. But
Oh,
yeah, because I remember he's had a few performances.
I think I was thinking about the other movie where they're doing that, but then there is actually aliens at the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's aliens at the end of this one, as I remember. I just remember it was a while back. But I remember like his performance was the best thing in the movie.
Yeah. No, I'll see if I can find the movie I'm thinking of quickly. I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember some other movies he's in. Michael Shannon.
Was that the one where is where his kid has a medical problem? What's that called? Midnight Blue or something?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, and it turns out his kid's an alien. That's why he's having health problems.
Yes.
So he can't quite live on Earth. Yeah, that one's cool too. That one's sad also.
Midnight Special, that's it.
Midnight Special, that's it.
I've only seen like the end of that movie, and I was like, "What the fuck is this movie?" And I was like, "Oh, it's that
That's
movie."
a great movie.
And then I never watched it.
It's like a 70s movie shot in the 2000s. It's very,
Okay.
very much in that vein. It's kind of like that.
I have weird revelations like that because that's why I end up watching the Fargo TV show because I never watched the first season. I didn't really have interest. It seemed like, well, that's a fool's errand. Why would you make that into a TV show? But it was like in the second season, and I saw it was like I think it might have been the series finale or the episode before, and like they have the alien abduction scene, and then like throughout the whole season, aliens existed throughout that whole season. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I look into it. It's like, this is Fargo. It's like, all right, I guess I better see what's going on with this TV show.
A pleasant surprise.
Yeah. And then I watched the first season. And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. So.
Yeah.
And has like one of your favorite maybe one of the favorite versions of the scene you like, where it's like a low budget movie where they can't show off the action, so you just like have a character walk indoors and the sound design is them shooting up the place, and you have like kind of vague, things that happen that's like, oh, this is the result, but you don't actually get to see what's happening. So.
Yes, I like that kind of stuff. Just the implications of it.
Yeah. I felt like I had more preamble to say about Nightcrawler, other than to say this is a great movie.
Yes.
Well, I was like, now that I had to, because I always appreciated the first time I watched it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting this out of it. Like, I guess, well, I mean, like when you watch the trailer, it's like, oh, it's just like a paparazzi being cruel. It's like, yeah, that's kind of synonymous, right? That's what they do. And then you kind of get like into the character and like his whole kind of like, small business angle where it's like, that's the only thing you can root for because this person is absolutely despicable. So it's like, and nobody is, nobody
He's
is
also
good
a void.
What's that? Oh, what? He's what?
He's just a void of a human. There's nothing beyond skin deep with him.
Yeah.
Everything he says and does, it's like you can tell he's delivering the lines like he heard that somewhere. It's like there's nothing original about him. He's just trying to manipulate people constantly.
Why?
Like, I'm a motivated person. I like to work. It's just all this kind of nonsense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's that business talk stuff. Which I always heard like people like make fun of, and now like the industry I am in now is more corporate, and then I hear people actually say that stuff, and like I'm almost giggling out loud of like, it's like that's what stupid people say. Let's circle back around to that. It's like, why don't we go fuck yourself?
Let's leverage our synergies and manage our strengths. What did we just talk about? I don't know. You getting more money? It's essentially what we just talked about.
But the thing I was wondering, I was speculating here, is that because he always talks about like studies and stuff, and like it's like he read a self-help book and then was like expounding on it to other people. But there's never like references. It's never like, this is where it came from. This is the study. So I don't know if he's like half reading things and then like in his head, he's writing his own self-help book. And then all the things he's telling is like half lies or just imaginations to like trick people into doing the things he wants. So like, I don't really know if he's stealing from anybody necessarily, if he's just purely making everything up.
Yeah, well, he's lifting ideas from people, and he's trying to use that as a way to motivate people because he has kind of a weird like photocopied charisma, but it's only to get things to do only to get people to do things that he directly needs them to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Because any reflection on anything Lou Bloom says to you is like, oh, what the hell is this guy talking about? This guy's crazy.
Yeah, which like this is
And it
why.
also has to do with the way Jake Gyllenhaal delivers dialogue in this very staccato, fast talking way. And he also looks crazy. He looks like someone who's starving to death as
Yeah.
well.
No,
So it's
he looks like the guy from Fight Club, but happy, or at least satisfied,
yeah, yeah, okay.
because he doesn't sleep. That we know of.
No, or eat much.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's why he just exemplifies like middle management and businessmen, where like he'll just say anything to get people to do what he wants, because he's never going to like compensate them for their troubles. He just needs to motivate
no,
them to do what he needs, and then he can just get rid of them. So like
yeah,
everything.
he's
Is
like a
just will.
24-hour manipulator.
Yeah. But like here, the stakes are low. It's not like he's manipulating people, and now like, now thousands of people are out of a job, but he gets a pay raise. It's like, wait, what? How's that work? um. So yeah, I think yeah, like weirdly, this movie is like a commentary on like the economy and like um on Wall Street with only without directly stating any of that stuff whatsoever. Like it's just giving you an example of like how this works, but just on a smaller scale, uh, and for like more trivial and kind of empty pursuits of the news just needs violence. So, and then that's a separate commentary about like, well, why is the news full of violence? Because it sells. And it's like, is it reflecting reality? It's like, no. In fact, it's reflecting the opposite of reality. So, um,
Yeah.
but people want to believe. um. So yeah, let's get into it. Where are those notes at? So we got Act 1. We open on a dingy white billboard, probably like on Mulholland Drive or something. Because I think that's Mulholland Drive where it like overlooks the city, because it's like the same shot in almost every movie. Like that's the Blade Runner
Yeah.
shot. So I think that's Mulholland Drive that looks over that stuff. Um, yeah, like I remember like one of the trivia about this movie is that they saved a lot of money by shooting in L.A. Um, but it's
Yeah.
hard to shoot in LA because everybody basically shoots the same stuff, so like everybody knows everything. But I don't know there, so I know like some of these things I recognize, other things I don't. So I'm pretty sure this is like more make more sense to people who are LA natives. Maybe I'm not sure. Because like yeah, we did Collateral, and this doesn't necessarily feel like LA's
Yeah.
Collateral's LA. This feels like a different LA. So
Well, this is kind of like movie was like all shot at night when there's not a lot of people around,
yeah,
so that makes it look and feel a little different.
yeah,
And it's also this guy's like going to out of the way places, and it's a lot of like accidents on freeways or out, in the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area, like out on roads to really expensive homes. And I mean, it's like 20 million people live in this area they're operating in. So
oh,
it's all kinds of places they
yeah.
can go.
I forgot to mention we've had Dan Gilroy pop up on the podcast before because he's one of the writers on Free Jack.
Okay.
And
He
then
also wrote a book in the 90s too.
oh,
About like a
okay,
techno. Yeah.
Because he seemed to like disappear for almost like a decade. So that must have been what he was doing. So because it wasn't
He
really.
wrote a book in 1989.
Oh, okay. Because he wrote the Born Legacy, and then he directs and writes this movie, and then he does Kong Skull Island. He wrote that, which that's a good movie.
Okay.
Um, or at least I like more of the look of that movie rather than like any of the plot that's going on. There's a lot of great visuals in that movie, and yeah, just posing Vietnam War stuff with King Kong is a ridiculous concept, but it works. So. Or maybe it did. I don't know.
No, I think it did. It was cool.
Well, it's weird because I feel like that one you can kind of pair those together with like the oh no, I'm forgetting the guy's name. The guy who directed Rogue One.
Oh, Gavin, the guy who did Monsters.
Gareth Edwards, yeah.
Gareth Edwards, yeah.
So he does that Godzilla movie, and that's kind of an artful look at Godzilla. And then you got this King Kong movie that's kind of artful look, and you feel like, but then like you look at the latest King Kong and Godzilla movies, and they're all kind of garbage, but they keep making them, so they must be successful. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think people just keep going. It's like, let's capture the magic of the original one. Or people just like, I don't want to think for 2 hours.
Yeah, maybe,
I'm going to take these edibles and go watch this movie with giant gorillas and dinosaurs killing each other. It's like,
because I watched that latest King Kong and Godzilla movie, and it's really, really stupid.
Yeah, I didn't hear good things.
And it doesn't even look good. Because at least the last one, they just like stole stuff from Neon Genesis Evangelion when they had them fighting on aircraft carriers. Well, no, that was actually the first one.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Because there's also that other. There's like that Godzilla like King of the Monsters movie. And then I think they did Kong versus Godzilla. And then there's a whole TV series about this whole side universe that
the Monarch TV series.
Yeah, it's got like Kurt Russell in it.
Yeah.
I don't even know where that's playing. I think Max, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, I forget which. Maybe it was. I don't know. I never really followed up on it.
So yeah, we get shots of LA at night. We get the titles Nightcrawler. We get credits over other shots of LA at night. And then we're introduced to sometimes he's Louis, sometimes he's Lou, but so Louis Bloom, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And I thought he was like cutting a hole in a fence to like rob something in the train yard, but then it's like even more lame. Like, I just need metal. And then like some security guard shows up asking questions, which the security guard's kind of acting like a police officer's like, hey, let me see some ID. And then he knocks out the guard after he sees his watch.
Yeah.
He also mentions like trying to get a job, like a guard job, but like, for some reason they want to give to him, which that's kind of like more, like this is, not too, it's 6 years after 2008. So it's like getting a job that's worthwhile is still like a, still a concern today. Like it's
oh yeah. Well, especially for guys like this.
Yeah.
I've met people like this guy.
Yeah.
They don't have jobs for very long. People usually like, hey, I don't like him. Let's get rid of him. Why? It's like, I don't know. Well, he'll provide us a reason. Just wait. Kind of people.
I would like to start my own business and stuff, but we've done this for like, nearly, let's see, 2009, so 15 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone well for us. I mean,
this point is just a hobby.
Yeah. We enjoy it, but it's, I guess I'm not a good enough shill. Cause like, I tell people like I have a podcast, but I never say what the podcast is or where to go to see it. Cause the only thing worse than like somebody having a podcast is that's somebody making you listen to their podcast. So it's like, well, if you're interested, you'll find it, and if you're not, you
Yeah.
won't.
It's kind of like, hey, would you read my script, or would you, it all becomes a
Yeah,
thing.
which I've literally had to
And it's
do
like,
that.
well, if
That's
you like it,
embarrassing.
yeah,
I spent time on this. I think it's good. And then you let somebody read it, and then you just like, oh, wait, I guess it wasn't good. And I wasted your time. I'm sorry. um, which I don't know, Nathan. You think you just knock this guy out, or you kill him, and it's just like an unsolved murder for the rest of the movie? What do you think?
I probably knocking people out is a movie trope.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than you think. So, but I would assume from the movie, he just knocked him out.
Okay. Because I don't
Because in
know.
real life, we know knocking someone out means you gave them a concussion.
Yeah.
And it's like that can be very easily fatal, especially if you're, using fists or knees or metal. So it's like, yeah, in real life, you'd kill the guy.
But I mean, well, you figure like the guard maybe remembered the license plate, but like probably not. So maybe he's got ADD. That's why he's not a real police officer, and he can't remember 6 numbers for more than 3 minutes. So,
yeah, that could be a thing.
Yeah. What car is he driving in the start of the movie? It's like a
1984 Toyota Tercel.
Oh, Tercel. Okay, I was confusing that. Like, there's a drifting racing cartoon show called Initial D, and one of the most famous cars in there is the 1986 Toyota Terreno, which is basically just kind of a shitty hatchback, and then but because the guy has like great technique, he beats like cars that are like souped up for racing. So people buy that all the time and soup it up. But I don't even know if the A6 Terreno was meant to be like something that was meant to be raced, or if that was just like a grocery getter or something. But this is like but the car here, the Tercel, is just a shitty hatchback. So
yeah, it's just a Japanese never say die hatchback from the 80s.
So yeah, we cut to like he's got the guard's watch, and he's got a roll of fence in the back, which like that's what he was cutting the fence for, just to get some metal, just scrap the metal for some money. Which that's always just a desperate thing.
Yeah,
and like I don't know how like those ends meet, like. Because like people keep doing that, and like you have to have a whole line of people looking the other way for that to like transaction to come in. Because there's not like I don't know, maybe there is. Like, you think there's a lot of mobbed up like like 4 foundries out there that are taking scrap metal from anybody.
I mean, secondary metal's a big business around here, but I know. Like in 2010 or whatever, like they started really cracking down on those guys. It's like, hey, you can't, if someone shows up with like just like bulk things of suspiciously molten copper, it's like, you can't buy that. That's all stolen out of something. They're stripping the copper out of the walls in a house and putting it in a thing at home and heating it up and making it into like a cube or whatever. And it's like, yeah, if you buy stuff like that, like they changed that into that's like called conversion of stolen goods or something. So a lot of the metal places here, like they won't, but a lot of metal places in Michigan, they have big customers too, like the big 3 or whatever. With all the scrap metal we run, it's like they don't need dudes showing up with their hatchback full of garbage. It's like they got 1 million tons of steel coming in from the GM plant of scrap. So but yeah, I mean, I know that's a thing that goes on, because I remember like remember the TV show Cops?
Yeah.
The cops would run guys down that were pushing shopping carts with aluminum siding off of someone's house in it and stuff. So it's like, it's always people that are doing it, but yeah, it is people that are at the end of their rope. there's no wise thief that's gonna like, I'm gonna weave the needle and make this work. No, if you're scrapping metal, you're, especially with what fuel and everything costs at that time, it's like, well, you're just a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, the fuel in
Usually
that case
people
is
that are
drugs.
scrapping, yeah, it's always like, I need money for whatever pills or whatever I'm gonna smoke, or that kind of stuff. But I know at different times and points there was, because the prices on secondary metal are really high, but they've also kind of clamped down on, like, hey, guys can't just show up with, it's like, oh, I have a bunch of copper wire. Interesting. I heard like a substation where they store that stuff got broke into. Wow, and this is the right gauge for it. You can't buy this stuff at the home improvement store. So now they're like, yeah, if you buy stuff like that, we're going to charge you with a crime. So
Yeah, I had to scrap a bunch of stuff because we'd pull out of air conditioner units and they're full of copper and stuff like that. But then you have to like cut them up in certain ways and you have to distribute them certain ways, or else they'll just like screw you on like the cost of it. And then it's almost always never worth it, where it's like, oh cool, we got like $200 out of this, and then like ultimately every time you go to the scrapyard you get like a nail in your tire. It's like, well, there went the money.
yeah. Yeah, they're not good. They're not. But we have guys that go around, and you put anything out to the curb on garbage day here that's like an old lawnmower or something, you'll have someone throwing it in the back of their truck. But I think a lot of those people are like retired old guys that just like, they just take this stuff apart in their garage and take it to they know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, any money they get, it's like, well, I'm just picking shit up off of people's, sidewalks that they don't want. They're not like breaking into the power company's, thing to steal all the spools of electrical cable and stuff. I know we had a rash of that for a while.
I once went to like, we did work at a factory one time where they just like recycle refrigerators, and that was a whole like racket. Like, I don't know what was going on there, but it's like, you couldn't just crush them. You had to like take everything. You had to like get the compressor out and do something special with that, and get the other metals out and do something special with that. And then once you had the box was stripped of all that stuff, then you could just throw it into a grinder and grind it up into a cube. And I don't know, they sold it off to someone or something. I don't know.
A lot of that stuff goes overseas.
They just dumped in the Pacific or something.
No, they use it for their domestic. There's grades of product that you can't buy or sell here because nobody would buy them.
Yeah.
But there's stuff that like goes over there, and they'll just melt that down. And it's like, here's your metal to make whatever you want to.
It's like when you see those guys in India like running a sand forge in their sandals and making like everything in the world.
Yeah, they're making like, oh, we're going to make all these compressors from parts we got from America. And it's like, sure, the Freon's going to leak out of them. It won't be any standard you could ever imagine in a first world country. But there, it's like people want that. That's like, yeah, rebuild my compressor again. And so they'll get all those parts and stuff. Or we're making like, I don't know, like if we make lawnmowers or chainsaws or whatever, it's all going to have like, fresh virgin steel and everything. That stuff will get all torn down and bought up over there and sent over on ships that are almost ready to sink. And they'll just unload the ship and then tear the ship down as they go, because this was its last voyage. There's a whole weird economy that goes on in the world.
Hey, I love the ones where they just like beach the ship and take it apart.
Yep.
It's like
they're just driving that thing in. Like, is that going to stop? Nope. Goes up on the shore, and they're just on it like ants, taken apart like an animal. The stop motion or time lapse film. They'll just tear that shit down, and those ships are full of asbestos. And to a lot of ships of the era that they're tearing down, because they just filled the hulls with asbestos, so if there was a fire, it wouldn't burn through to the outer hull. And it's, all these people are going to be dead in 10 years. It's. But yeah, that was a thing for a long time, was you did all your ship breaking in those countries.
Yeah.
Because they would just take all the metal and melt it down. And, and it's always places like that where there's just massive poverty. And then they're making commercial goods that you could never sell here, and also like filling the environment with like freon
Yeah.
and stuff. Just terrible. It's like, we're going to save the planet by driving electric cars. It's like, well, okay, there's about, I don't know, 3 billion people over in another part of the world that are essentially living like it's, I don't know, like the age of steam almost. It's like, it's crazy stuff going on.
Well, yeah, don't you like? Did you talk about you watch those like crazy like Indian like repair videos because like, oh
Oh,
yeah,
constantly.
this is how I can survive the future apocalypse. Like the
Yeah.
India's already living it. So it's
Yeah, India's living in a daily apocalypse. You just pour molten metal in your open-toed sandals and just watch your feet. You'll be fine.
like,
And it's like time to grind this thing, and there's giant gears, and it's like, how do you run that grinder? You pedal it with your bare feet. There's spinning gears right next to where you put the pedals. It's like, well, be careful. It's gonna stop. But this guy's like got a big grin on his face. He's just running this blade, and it's like, look, now you can cut meat. You got it. This is a kitchen knife. Just put like they're putting like recycled plastic handles that were just like held together with a resin, and it's like, this is the handle, this is the knife, you can cook with it, and someone will use that damn thing for 30 years. Like it's amazing. But yeah, it's real Mad Max stuff. Like,
yeah, because you're watching what them do battery repair videos. It's like, oh, this would be totally illegal in the U.S., but like when civilization collapses, will be really useful knowledge. So.
yeah, there's no EPA when there's like when everything's a barter economy. One guy made this beautiful point. I forget who said it, but he was talking about like he's one of those AI, like, oh, we're doomed. It's essentially no one's going to have a job once AI becomes real. And he was saying, I talk to these guys and they're kind of smug about it. It's like, yeah, there's just going to be the creators but all the builders and workers, that's going to be all AI and machines. And he's talking to this guy. He says, yeah, and they're talking about the currencies like the crypto. It's like, that's the currency of the future. And this guy's like, if you alienate 90% of the human race, the currency of the future is going to be the bullet. There's going to be nothing left for you guys if you do. And these guys are like, no, it's going to be fine. No, it isn't. But we don't even know if that world's possible. So, I know the world that exists in India, in the world of Nightcrawler, like where you sell stolen metals, like they're going overseas to be made into blenders and medical equipment. Very, very hardworking, smiling men who pour molten metal with sandals that are open toed and stuff. And everything involves, all the work involves stooping in some, like there's no chairs, no one's working at a table. Everyone's like squatted down and and they're always doing something. It's like, no, their posture's horrible. Like these guys are,
they have no welding mask. They just have like a little
nope.
card they hold in front of their face or just close their eyes.
I've seen the little welding card. They'll keep it up there until they strike the arc. Then they'll set the card down and grab something else, and all this like just is blasting into their, or they're wearing the really old-fashioned round goggles that are probably like World War II vintage.
But no glove, no vest, nothing to,
nope.
Nothing to, like, just your skin's your protection. Like, trust in God.
Sweat is what's keeping that stuff from, like, because apparently their clothes don't catch on fire either. I don't know what their clothes are made out of.
Asbestos.
Yeah. Wow, it's from that ship. It's like, oh, it's the magic ship stuff you never burn with this. It's like, yeah. Covered in blisters, though. It's like, well, yeah. Come on.
Did you see the teaser trailer for the Electric State?
Yeah.
Are you hopeful for that, or just holding reservations?
I'm not hopeful for anything anymore. But
okay.
I mean, it could be cool. It's not coming out. It's coming out in March, which that's like a weird time to release things.
Well, it's like Netflix too, so you don't even have to go to the theaters, right? So
yeah. But it could be like it just they have a long production cycle on. I mean, they spent enough money, so it could be cool. And it was not like I'm going to say it's not true to the source material. It's like, no, they had to make up a story.
Yeah. They have imagery.
There was no. Yeah. So as far as capturing the imagery, it's like they got it. It's like they exactly got his images. It's now they have to build a story around it.
Well, I don't know if I like or think it's stupid where like we're driving around a VW bus, but like we're not driving it. It's just a robot is carrying it everywhere. Which I don't. Was that a thing in the book? I can't remember.
No, the book. So the thing in the book, what was cool about it was you had all this future robotics and stuff, and that was one he set in America specifically. So you had all the great cars of the '90s because it was set in the '90s. So people were driving like Buick LeSabres and stuff, and like cars that they actually had in the '90s. But then you had this ultra high technology too. But it's like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Like there was a scene where the police were having a shootout with one of these robots in the book, and they're all using like those, mid to early '90s police cars, like the square bodied like Caprices and stuff. It's like, oh, it's just nothing's changed. They just have this ultra technology of robots, and we don't know what that is or why that is. But yeah, if you pay attention to the cars, it's like it's all the big cars of the '90s. There was nothing futuristic about it except giant robots and people with their heads and these things that made them look like birds.
Yeah. Weird VR things or whatever they are.
Yeah. Because remember in the '90s, VR was king. It's like, oh, this is how we're going to create.
There was a lot of VR fiction in the '90s. Like that's where it started.
Yeah, well, it was a great workaround because graphically at that time with computers, you could never say it's like, oh, we're going to create this immersive world that like, because we were beyond Pong, but we were still in that era of like, well, these graphics aren't totally convincing. But it's like, oh, but when it jacks straight into your mind through some kind of helmet, it's like you can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. That was like a short.
Well, that was always the weird disconnect where it's like it made sense in the Matrix. Like, we're going to put a thing into your fucking spine. Whereas, like, in every fiction in the '90s, it's like, we're going to put some goggles in front of your face and you won't know the difference between reality.
Yeah, you'll think you're going to die. And that was a cool thing, too. And, like, what was that movie? Where you could experience things and record.
No, it was Strange Days.
The one Strange Days. It was like, well, that kind of makes sense because it's like whatever that's hooking into is like it's like a sideboarding the how your brain interacts with your body and inserting its own thing in there. It's like, yeah that could be immersive too.
Yeah. I just remember there was there's a lot of things that did that. Like I think even Lawnmower Man did it too as well. But there was a bunch of fictions where it's like, if you died in virtual reality, you died in life. So that wasn't just a Matrix thing. That was in every VR fiction thing before the Matrix. There was even like a Chris Carter like television show about like VR and like training, like military training in VR or something like that.
Okay.
But the show that I don't know if you remember, but you remember when UPN became a thing and it was just Star Trek and then there was something else on there? Well, the other thing on there was Nowhere Man, and they had a VR episode that was where basically like the guy died in VR and he was just a brainless husk after that. Do you remember Nowhere Man?
I vaguely do remember that. It was like a lot of one of the again, it was that whole rash of VR themed things that were going on at that time.
Chris Carter, that was what I was looking for. I remember it has a cool name, like Threshold or something like that, the Chris Carter VR. Harsh Realm.
Harsh Realm. Do not remember that.
Yeah. 9 episodes.
Okay. On UPN.
Oh no, Harsh Realm was a Fox show.
Oh, Fox. That's right. Yeah, Chris Carter. Yeah, that would be Fox.
I don't know. Fox made a lot of like. I don't know like why Fox supports sci-fi shows and immediately cancels them, but they make a lot of expensive sci-fi shows that never go anywhere. So maybe I don't know. Maybe X-Files treated them so well that they just keep trying to recreate that. So
yeah, that could be.
Because I can't. Because not like, are there really any other like does NBC, ABC, or CBS like really go for sci-fi stuff at all?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I think ABC does like Quantum Leap, the new one. So maybe that's as close as
I
we
think
get.
so much of that stuff is on streaming now
Yeah.
that that seems to be
Well,
where its home is.
well, there's so many police procedurals that's all I think like network TV is. But then like I
Yeah.
think there's that La Brea show about where like the La
Oh yeah,
Brea tar pits
that's a
open up.
weird one.
I don't.
Yeah.
I've never seen a lick of that. I've just seen the commercials for it. It's like, well, that looks like a stupid TV production Jurassic Park, but I haven't. But I don't know. It might be in its fourth season for all I know.
I remember hearing about it, and the guys were just making fun of it the whole time because it's like Lost, but if everyone was stupid and had no brain, and just like let's just jump into a blender and see what happens.
um. Oh yeah, scroll all the way to Act 2. So we get back to Lou is trying to negotiate with the foreman for the medal. The guy's not
Yeah.
having it. So, we get, it's like, because Lou thinks highly of himself, so he thinks like he can negotiate, but he's not good at it because he has absolutely no leverage because this guy knows he just stole all this shit. So it's like, and he just wants to move on without him. But Louis trying his his he's trying to like network. He's doing his networking goals. It's like, well, I'll step in here. I'll start with no money. I can start tomorrow. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm not hiring a thief. Which then like Jake Gyllenhaal has like this great reaction where he's kind of like thinking to himself and he smiles. It's like, yeah. Which I don't know what that means. He's like, oh yeah, if people think I'm a thief, they're not going to hire me, or I need to figure out how to hide that I'm a thief. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't identify himself as a thief. Like he thinks he's just like, well, I'm just taking advantage of the situation. Like if I didn't take this fence, somebody else would. So
Yeah. Like I said, there's no ethical depth to this guy.
yeah.
It's like his only thing he got from that. He's not even angry. He's like, oh yeah, I was proceeding from a weak posture.
Yes.
Trying to sell myself, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm technically coming to you as a suspicious person who didn't like. Oh no, I'm a guy who's I demolish homes or had no legitimate reason to have that stuff. Where the hell do you get manhole covers?
Yeah,
like
the manhole cover thing is crazy.
where you could have those. So yeah, he's like, yeah, he just kind of like snapped his fingers and pointed at him and just, but he's always like this the whole time. You just get this weird grin and very gaunt look.
Then we cut to Lou sees some cops ride past him, and he stops at the scene of an accident. And there are cops like trying to pull a lady out of this car that's on fire, and it's just like crashed inside of the bridge. And then the paparazzi pull up, and they start getting footage of the scene. We get introduced to Joe Loader, this is played by Bill Paxton. He's like really pushing his nose into the scene to make sure he gets like all the footage he can. And so like this inspires Lou. Is like, I'm not sure what do you think Lou's thinking of, like, oh, this is a business I can do, or what necessarily what he's thinking here is like, I didn't know this was like a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that appeals to his sense of himself and his condition. It's like I would clearly have no problem filming people dying in car accidents or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like I could do this. It's exciting. I could really pump my ego up. I wouldn't have to steal and be in the world of thieves and liars and junkies. It's like this could be a better thing for me because he's a guy without vice, or he apparently has no, like, he's just this thing moving through the world. I mean, Lou Bloom is like, people like that are kind of like what human beings. It's just like if an animal had human intelligence but no empathy. It's like, oh no, I have the intelligence to solve all these problems and do all these things, but there's no right or wrong. It's just like, it's just on to the next thing, whatever I need to do to survive. And he never stops to think like this is wrong, or that's real crappy work, or maybe I shouldn't do that. It's like, no, this seems kind of vaguely exciting and a step up from just running around stealing garbage and trying to sell it. I could do this.
Do you think he's a narcissist?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm not like a shrink, and I don't have a lot of
Well, I guess
training in
generally
psychology. But what I know
psychopaths
about,
are narcissists. So, and then like clearly he uses people like he does. Yeah, he has no compassion for other people. He just uses them for his own means, and so that's just psychopathic behaviors.
well, the thing with guys like him is they don't. Yeah, I was only half joking when I said we're doing another movie about an alien. Is like they don't have any feelings at all. That's what's really sad about them. It's only extreme things that bring them anything close to a feeling. It's like that's why when they and he's not like a psychopath. Like he doesn't take pleasure from people's deaths. He's just like someone who has no um there's just no right or wrong with him, and he also does not understand why people act the way they do at all. You know, when he makes people angry or makes people happy, he's like, it's all kind of a mystery to him. He knows how to manipulate people, but then when people call him out on his shit and they're like, yeah, hey, I don't like that, he's always sort of like, huh? Oh, weird. You know what? But yeah, for him, it's like, I mean, he definitely believes in himself and thinks a lot of himself. But I don't know if it's those people don't have like a lot of like pent up things to feed. The real horror of those people is it's like their personalities are a black hole. There's like, hey, what really drives you? What makes you happy? Look at this picture of kittens. Look at these lions tearing a wildebeest apart. They would have the exact same reaction to both things. Well, it's just a problem being solved. You know, you just have to move on. And you always know these guys too, these real transactional people, where as soon as you run into them, it's like, hey, what can you do for me? You know, hey, I want this to happen. It's like, do you? What do I get out of it? Well, the pleasure of helping me achieve my goals. It's like, why
Don't
would
you
you
want to
want
be a part
something
of
else?
greatness?
Yeah, because they don't see that. Like I said, it's all skin deep with these guys. There's never some grand plan or genius behind it. It's just a person who has. It's just like I don't know, some kind of monkey or some other low level creature suddenly was given human intelligence, but with none of the empathy or consequences or anything like that. It's just like, oh no, I have to do all these things. And you know, and I'm going to follow the straightest line possible because then it's on to the next thing.
Um, yeah. So Louis asked Joe like how much money he makes doing this business. Where Joe's like not enough, but then he sees like all the stuff he has in his van. And he's like, well, that's expensive. So he must
Yeah.
be making enough money. So he decides like, oh, I'll see if I can do that. And also he sees that like Joe's like chasing down emergency calls, so it's like okay, that's something to keep in mind. So that being the act one, so it's like okay, this is he's gonna get into Nightcrawling or what do they call them?
Stringers.
Stringers. Okay.
They're
I
basically independent journalists, independent photojournalists.
yeah. Which yeah, we should have Matt on for this because he was a photographer, but he was like a legitimate photographer for like news stations.
Yeah, yeah. He worked for an actual company.
So like
He wasn't freelance.
yeah, so like he would do like the setups where you have like, you know, the reporter in front of something. That's what he would do. He wouldn't be like chasing ambulance chasing or whatever.
Yeah, having police scanners in your vehicle and just going to the scenes of shootouts and murders and sticking cameras in people's faces. Well, first of all, there's very few places in America that are large enough cities that would support people doing this, multiple people
Yeah.
doing this full time. It's like maybe, you know, like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, maybe some other larger cities. But,
Well, yeah, because
and also, I don't know what the legality of doing this really is in real life.
well, I think that's like yeah, I don't know what it is in real life. I imagine most of it would be illegal, but I think him being an independent contractor like divorces the news station from the acquisition of the stuff. So,
Yeah.
because clearly, like you know, horrible footage makes it to the internet and all that stuff. But I don't know if anybody's getting paid for it. But,
Well, yeah, a
but
lot of the worst stuff you see now that's not from like journalists is like, oh, it's somebody's HD phone camera.
yeah,
which is like that's another thing that's made like stuff like this kind of, I don't know if it still goes on. Like I imagine it doesn't.
Well, it's like that, and like Ring doorbells are capturing everything. So
Yeah. You see the best shootouts on Ring doorbells because you're just seeing it like it's a side-scrolling video game. It's like somebody's running, and then here comes somebody else, tap 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 tap, and then it just goes out of screen. It's like, well, I guess I got to make up the story. Like, what happened after that? It's like, oh, they stopped and became friends.
I mean, wasn't a Ring doorbell that caught like there was the guy who's like having an argument with like a neighbor, and he just like shoots him in the middle of the street, and then like shoots the wife and then shoots the husband and then like executes them, and it's just all clearly wide shot on a Ring camera.
Oh yeah, was this the guy they were arguing about? They were shoveling snow in his driveway.
Yes.
And he was like, he went up to the woman and was like, should have kept your mouth shut, and then just coup de grace. Yeah, that was a Ring camera. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so like, yeah, I don't, yeah.
And the conclusion of that though is, I don't know if you ever followed that whole story, is like all three of those people, it's like, well, they were all awful people and had been for a long time. So this wasn't like this guy randomly like, they threw snow on my driveway, let me go get my AR-15. No, this had been building up for like 10 years. So it was like, because at first you're like, oh, he executed those people, what a monster, because then he went and shot himself in the house. Because guess what? You just can't kill your neighbors and be like, I won. You get to go to prison the rest of your life. So, but yeah, there had been something going on there for a long time. But yeah, that was a Ring type camera, or some kind of external security camera. Yeah, that is pretty cold blooded to go in the house, get another gun, and come back. And she's on the ground screaming. It's like, should have kept your mouth shut. Like, you wouldn't think that would happen in real life, but it's like, well, I guess it did in this case.
But yeah, that like, so like the news station thing, like we have local news stations because we're a big enough city. So like all, CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox all have their news stations. Where actually I think CBS and Fox share the same station. It's weird. But like, so yeah, that's just like, but like in LA, they would have like multiply all that. They'll have like multiple NBC stations. Like, and big cities, like over the air antenna stuff you can get is crazy, and like you don't necessarily need cable there if you're just willing to watch like the weirdest stuff you can just get free over the air. Whereas like if you're in the Midwest, you got to have cable because you can't see anything over any antenna. Although now it's different. Digital antennas, like you can get crazy stuff now, but now you just have the internet. But
yeah. And they're going to get that all over the country, they say. Every administration. We're doing it. Never happens, but.
Yeah, I think the last time I had an antenna was like when, like, it's always with the NFL. Whoever has the license or whatever thinks that the NFL is like, has exorbitant prices or something for it. And so, or the news station is charging your cable provider too much money, and so then they just black out the station and blame CBS or whatever for it. And it's like, and then my cable provider at the time was offering like free antennas to be able to watch the Super Bowl as a response to it. So I got like 3 free antennas. We watched the Super Bowl on the antennas and then never used them again. So, but that was like just before they started coming out with all the digital antenna stuff. So. Because they have like the same, they have like the same frequencies they always had, but now that it's digital, they can cram like 10 channels into the same signal that they could before. So,
yeah, because within that frequency thing, it used to be they had to run huge amplifiers, and it would take the wave would take the entire range. Now with digital, it's a bunch of teeny tiny ones, and it can be very well ordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't experienced that, but I know like LA has like some crazy local stuff, and that's also where like, it's like, that's where all the video production is. So there's also going to just be lots of stuff like that around. So like, yeah, this is like, and especially with LA, and it's like, it's, you have to imagine with all that traffic, there's a lot of accidents. So this is basically like the only place you could have a job like this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you do this in New York. New York City.
That would be really hard because LA is basically, there is a big city center, but it's essentially suburbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like 3-story apartment blocks or something. Yeah, New York, you'd be on foot all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think the police there would just beat the crap out of you if you showed up and started in their faces. They would just beat you. Yeah,
And
California's a little more permissive and stuff like that because it's like, no, this is entertainment. Yeah, I want to be on camera too, or at least that's what I imagine it is. I don't.
Well, and also they have giant roadways that don't alleviate the traffic problem, but once you get past the traffic problem, lots of open spaces at nighttime to drive around and do what you want. So,
yeah, oh yeah.
Because you hear people talk about LA, and it's like, oh, if you wanted to get here, you should have left like at 4 a.m. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, well, the guys on they'll always do the Joe Rogan podcast would be like, yeah, I got out of the airport and it's like, oh, it says it's only 10 miles to your studio. And it's like, it's 2.5 hours in a car to get that far. It's like, oh yeah, it's nuts.
And then that's where I think
and some of the guests would be like, and you don't have a provision to land a helicopter here, which sucks.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, there's a lot of helicopter traffic in LA. It's because it's like private stuff, but that's how you get Kobe Bryant happening. So actually, I don't know what was happening there, but
it's just the law of averages.
Yeah,
statistically, one of those things are going to come down.
Well, I just forget why he was in the first place. I don't know if he's like getting over traffic or it was like a plan. I forget what was going on with that.
Oh yeah, I don't know the details. All I know is when the engine shuts off in like the Cessna, and you see the guys, it's like, oh, the engine's shut down. Okay, and they're trying to do stuff, and it's like, oh, it's not going to restart. Let's see if we can make it back to the airport. And they have these crazy videos where these guys like, oh, we're coming in with no engine. When the helicopter engine stops, it just falls to the ground, at terminal velocity. Yeah, it's like, yep, that's it.
They had some video game journalists out at the Grand Canyon for Microsoft's new flight simulator release. And they have there's some new company out there. They're selling, it's probably an extremely expensive plane, but it has like an automated feature that if your pilot dies, you can hit this button and it'll like land the plane. There's also
very handy.
There's also just a giant button in there. Well, basically a parachute will pop out of the back of the plane and it'll just float to the ground. It'll turn off the engine and just float to the ground. So, I can't remember. It seemed like it held like 4 people, but it was light enough that you could just parachute 4 people to the ground without it burning and crashing. But you never know. So,
yeah. Good. The parachute's out. Oh no, the high power lines. Oops. Look, the La Brea tar pit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like someone sells you like, oh, that's a cool safety feature. Is like, hope you never have to use it, and then it gets used, and then like the results of it is worse than you can expect. It's like, well, it's supposed to save us, and it doomed us anyways. Which I'm not sure if there's like a second parachute. They make it sound
Speaking of stringers, I was like.
Well, I don't know if there was a second parachute because it seemed like the one parachute came out the back and the plane just hung like propeller down and you just waited to hit the ground, or if there's another one that like propped it up. But anyways,
I don't know. Speaking of stringers, though, I do like the ones where the airplanes, the engine goes out, the small planes, or even like the Learjets. And they're like, yeah, we can't get any. We're losing altitude at this rate and we can't get the engines restarted. What do you see around you? Like a freeway. All right, go for it. And it's like somehow there'll be guys on the overpass with cameras. It's like, here comes the Learjet because the cops start running to pull to the side. Here it comes. And it's sometimes it works. It's wild though when it does.
I mean, Harrison Ford did an emergency landing on a golf course. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
And actually, a lot of that stuff happens because, like, the only people that can afford to, like, have flying planes as a hobby are boomers. And I hear there's I hear there's supposed to be, like, you're supposed to get physicals and stuff to like prove that you're like physically able to be a pilot, but there's just like because everybody's so old, they just like look the other way. Like on all these pilots
Oh,
physical
okay.
on all these like private pilots physicals. It's like, well, they're the only people with money, so if they can't fly, we're not making money, and then they just have heart attacks and crash the planes because that's like a relatively common thing that happens.
I never thought of
But yeah, like how many times have you heard of like, oh, the pilot had a heart attack, and you're like, why is this always happening? So it's like, that's why.
Now I'm going to pay attention.
um. So yeah, I have that being in Act 1 because Lucy's like, hey, I can do his job. Act 2, it's a morning montage of L.A. This is kind of like the rare morning moment we get. I mean, there's some stuff because there's always Lou watering his plant and watching the morning news. I don't know, Nathan. What do you think the hell that plant's about? Does that mean anything?
I don't. It's his friend.
Okay.
It's the only thing he can relate to because it's like completely. Oh, how would you say it? Yeah, it can't really respond to him.
Yeah.
He can totally dominate the plant, and it's in his complete care.
So yeah, we got a various media playing over the air, like radio, emergency, broadcasts, and like CB radio, and what's the other one? Police band radio, stuff like that.
Police scanning, yeah.
Yeah, and just like the morning news and stuff like that. He finds Joe's footage on the news, so he sees like, oh yeah, this can happen. It's like immediate. Like you shoot this at night and it pops up in the morning. We cut to Lou sitting on a beach, and you think like, oh, he's just thinking to himself, but he's just biding his time to steal some guy's bike.
Yeah.
Then we cut to he's like trying to negotiate the sale of the bike to some pawn shop guy. Which he's just riding it around the store and like saying like he like won some like Mexico like
yeah, he's always makes up these weird earnest stories that like the guy he's talking to is like, you're just
so he's like I mean like Lou looked up the price of it. It's like, yeah, this is like an $8,000 bike. I'll sell it to you for $5,000. This guy's like, I'll give you $300, and he's like trying to negotiate, but the guy doesn't break, and he's like, how about $800 in store credit? And he's like, what are you looking for? So this is where Lou gets like a crappy I'm not sure if this is a digital camera or if this has got like tape going on here. He's probably got tape going on here, but it has a digital interface. So it's probably like a mini DV camera here, maybe. Or maybe it's all digital, I'm not sure. But yeah, he gets his first police scanner and camera. Then also this is where we get more of like Lou just lying to people. So like you see he has no problem doing that. Like it's like and if people catch him in a lie, he's not really that like perturbed or like distracted by that. Like he's like, I mean, he does have pause, but he's like, well, on to the next lie. Anyways.
Yeah, because he doesn't get angry when people like catch him and they just call him out. It's like, you're completely full of it, and he's just kind of like, yeah. Okay.
Well, like he even mentions like he doesn't swear to people and stuff like that. So he is putting on this face for people, but he is just like he's just full of lies. Then we cut to Lou's like listening to the police scanner and like waiting for a call. We find he find there was like a shooting somewhere. There's like he gets there and the cops like have the guy like just sitting on the ground. It's all very wrapped up, and he just like runs up to them and like just puts the cameras in people's faces like, what's going on here? And the cops are like about ready to beat his ass, and then he just leaves. So. We get like more montage of basically the same thing where he's just being rejected. Although he does seem to have like a story. Like what does he say? Like freelance. That's what he yells. He's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like freelance press or something like that. So he does have some sort of like First Amendment like kind of vagary going on here, where it's like his right to film this stuff, things like that. Um,
Yeah.
um, and then we have like Lou happens upon another scene where another camera guy is there, and like Lou's just kind of like mirroring the guy, and then he just somebody got shot and they're doing like chest compressions and like on somebody, and just Lou just walks up and puts the camera like right up to the person that's being worked on, and so this pisses off a cop, and then the cop starts shutting down the scene, which that's like a constant phrase, like the cop shut the scene down, where it's like that's why you have to get to it first, like before the cops can tell you can't film, or that you can't be that close to filming it. It seems to be a thing. It's like there's always a perimeter where you're like the cops are fine with you filming from, but like the good stuff is getting inside the perimeter. Which again, I don't know like the legality of that stuff, because like everyone kind of brings up obstruction of justice going on here, but like I don't know if when's the last time a cameraman's been like prosecuted for obstructing justice by filming stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at some laws and stuff because I don't really, but it's not, it's just like the story, it just propels the narrative. It doesn't really matter what's really legal or not. It's like, this is what he can get away with, and the reason he does it is because he has no soul. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, he just does it until somebody says no, but like all he needs is that window of opportunity before someone says no.
yeah,
And really, like the yeah, when it's out in the open like this in the public street, it's like he seems to be fine. It's when you get into like people's houses and stuff like that, that's when it's like, oh, this seems wrong. And then when he's like the first one on the scene and he's like manipulating the scene, it's like, well, that's illegal. So...
that can't be legal.
So yeah, the other camera guy's pissed, but he like trails the guy without him knowing, and like is just listening to him doing business, where it's like, yeah, I got a shot. Someone was shot during a carjacking. They were getting drugs at Walgreens. It's like, it's $500. And so this like Lou picks up on like all these little tidbits. It's like, okay, well, I can just like, I'll just regurgitate this same stuff to other people, and then maybe it'll work. Then we cut to Lou walks into a TV station looking to sell footage. He kind of accidentally gets sent to an editor suite with his footage. Here's where he runs across Nina Romina, which I feel like Dan was just like tired of like coming up with character names. It's like, it's Lou Bloom, whatever. Nina Romina, just everyone has like a rhyming name or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Rene Russo in a great role here, and again, this is Dan Gilroy's wife, so it's like, I don't know if that helps or makes this weird. Just, yeah, because it feels like she wasn't in movies for a while, and then here she is here, and then I don't know if she's really done much since this movie.
Yeah, I don't recall. I remember seeing her in a lot of things in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I know I saw her in this. It was like, oh, she's been a long time since I've seen her.
I guess she was in Velvet Buzzsaw. Apparently, she was
in
Avengers Endgame. I don't know. Maybe that was like a voice character. But yeah, she hasn't done a lot since Nightcrawler. So, like, I know they have a kid, so maybe she's just being a mother or something.
Also 70 years old too.
Oh, okay.
So. Get
Hollywood doesn't like that, so yeah.
Well, and it's just you just like get tired of being on. Yeah. I was like, it always amazed me when who was the guy? Patrick Stewart did like 3 seasons of Picard. It's like, oh man, this guy looks like he just wants to take a nap. I felt bad for him.
So he's able to convince her that he has a better shot of the shooting, because like she says there, he like sold it to that guy that he was listening to on the phone. So yeah. I'm not sure if that's why he knew to go here. It's like mentioned later on, it seems like he was taking advantage of this news station because he knows it's like the lowest rated news station. but I don't know if that's why he first went here, or if there's another reason, or if he overheard them saying this news station when he was listening to that guy talk to him on the phone. I'm not sure. Um, they also were introduced to Frank Cruz, the assistant editor, which he gets called in when they're running loose footage, which is kind of funny because he's like, fast forward, because it's him like, it's like all the footage of him like looking at the camera and setting up for the first time and other stuff. And so it's like,
Yeah.
Frank thinks the footage is too excessive because it's just like an open, it's like sucking chest wound that they're working on somebody. But then like Nina rolls it into like, oh, this can be part of our crime wave like exposition, and they're like, all right, yeah, let's do that. And so, and then she just negotiates the footage to $250, which she says it's bad quality and it's too late for him to take it somewhere else. So she like takes advantage of him. Then we cut to like she gives him a check, but then she actually gives him like some pointers here where it's like, hey, get better equipment, get this mic, and so like we'll be able to use more of like what you gather, and then so but he actually seems like, okay, yeah, that's good advice, like because nobody else is like giving him advice, they're just telling him to fuck off. So
Yeah. One thing I liked about this scene though is it like this news studio is in full swing in the middle of the night. It's like that's crazy big city stuff there.
Yeah.
Like we are running the full gambit here.
Yeah, again, we should have Matt on because I knew he had like crazy hours where it's like, yeah, work starts at 4 a.m. because then we got to like edit footage from like the night before into the morning stuff and things like that. So
yeah,
which yeah, like here it's like everybody has a specific position, but I remember like Matt was like he had like he'd go out and do photog stuff, and then he'd come back to the station and do editing, and then he'd do a bunch of stuff, and then like if somebody wasn't around, he would like direct the news. The newscast.
So, probably sounds more exciting than it really was.
No, he's
all the time.
Yeah. He did not seem to like what they were doing there. So maybe in a bigger city, there's more money to go around and more like specific jobs where it's like you just do this. So
yeah.
Yeah, how are local news stations funded? Are they just like purely on selling ads? Oh yeah, I guess it must be just selling ads and stuff like that. But
yeah, it's selling ads, and they're also part of a larger name franchise.
Oh yeah, I guess they're affiliates of like NBC and ABC and stuff like that, so they'll have some support there.
So they'll recycle a lot of their footage.
Yeah. And
then you have like the purely experimental ones like we have here at like Fox 2 Detroit. They just have their own talk shows and everything. That and some of them are entertaining and informative. They're very local.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. And then of course we have all the crazy like man on the street and like I'm solving problems. This guy screwed people over, and they're banging on his door with cameras. Get out here. You messed this guy's lawn up. And these people are like, get out of my face. It's all the full-time crazy stuff. Yeah. You're trespassing. I'm calling the cops. And it's like, okay, but I think you really want to talk to us. You don't want this going out. It's that back and forth where it's like, it's kind of people being Midwest people pleasers, but also being like in your face psychos. It's kind of a weird mix, and they're successful at it. I mean, they keep doing it, so it works.
But this is also where Nina outlines what specific footage he needs to get to be successful, which is basically crimes and accidents of rich white people.
Yep, it's like if poor brown people are committing crimes, and he's like, just crimes, and she's like, no, car accidents too. Anything where like affluent people are being hurt by poor people, that go with that. That's and they're saying this just nonchalantly. Yes. Like, we're not being cynical or dark here. It's like, no, that's where the money is. It's eyeballs, do that. Like, that's kind of jarring, but also at the same time, like, yeah, of course, if you think about what a lot of news stuff is, it's stories like that. Because it's like, because she said like nobody's interested if there's a carjacking in what's the place there where all the rap guys were from?
Oh, like Long Beach or no, what is it? Compton.
Compton. Yeah, she's like, nobody cares about a stabbing or a carjacking in Compton. That's not even news.
Yeah.
So you got to get out in the affluent suburbs, car wrecks, anything where people could feel like I'm in danger. It's like
Yes.
we got to get that.
Which, like, she has no idea what she's setting up here.
No, you've just turned the fox loose in the hen house. Oh, that's what we need to do. Okay, there's lots of ways we can make that happen. Hey, no, yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't know who you're dealing with here.
Then we cut to it's morning. Lou watches the morning news of his shooting footage getting shown in a news package, which here he's able to record the news straight to his laptop, and he has it like he starts to build his portfolio of footage that he's sold to the news. Um, which again, that's just the weird part of this movie, where it's just like you want to root for him to build his business, but then ultimately what he does to do it is like, well, that's wrong. And that's kind of the point of the movie. It's like, yeah, if you want to get ahead in business, you have to do the wrong thing that nobody else is willing to do to get ahead.
Yeah, it's like, how hard is he going to work to get to all the scenes and shootings, and like, how can he do that when there's people that are been doing it a lot longer and are a lot better at it? And it's like, oh, evil.
Yeah.
We're just going to rig the system. We're going to cheat.
Because the system's set up to present itself as being fair, but of course, hard work and the presentation of fairness is for suckers.
If it was just hard work, well, most people would be fine. Most people are motivated by, oh, do A to get to B, but it's not hard work. It's mostly grift.
So I hear we have a cut to him. He starts looking up like what police and emergency codes mean, which again, it's like, okay, yeah, he's doing the work. We see him spend time in his apartment where he's like ironing his clothes and watching some comedy thing and laughing too loud at something that's just kind of stupid. It's like a guy like the knight's head gets knocked off and he's like laughing his ass off.
Yeah, because he had his head tucked down inside the armor.
Yeah.
So when the helmet got knocked off and his head popped up, and it was like some 60s comedy. I think it was like a night in King Arthur's court.
Oh, okay.
Disney film or something from the 60s, maybe not Disney, I don't know. Yeah, but he's laughing like I don't know what's the guy, like the guy who does Joker now.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
It's like that kind of like ha 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 ha. There's nothing real about it. It's just like
it's not a genuine laugh. He's not. There's nobody around to hear him laugh except for his plant. So maybe this is him like practicing human emotions.
Exactly what's going
on. Then we cut to Lou is hiring an employee at a restaurant. So he hires Rick, which is played by Riz Ahmed, who really has nowhere else to go, and like Lou knows this. There's also this mention as like, so you trick for money, and the guy's like, I don't do that shit. Like, and then Lou goes like, that was a statement, not a question. So I don't know if that's just him implying things, or if it's like he was a part of that, so he just knows that's what happens, or what's going on here. But like, because you hear rumors of that all the time, where it's like, because I always hear like way different things. Because there's the tied together shoes hanging from a phone line. Like in some neighborhoods, that's just a innocent, playful thing that just kind of looks nice. And then I heard in LA, that's like where they just like raped somebody in the middle of the road and threw their shoes up on a power line. That's okay. So like, I don't know. What do you think like shoes on a power line mean, Nathan?
I always thought it was a prank.
Yeah.
I never knew it had like.
I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't even know if that's like actually a thing, or if that's just like rumors spread throughout the world about LA. So
it's a dark thing that people they will see that.
Yeah.
And and it's just a prank, but they're like, you know what I heard that means.
Yeah.
It's like, now there's things you hear that make sense. Like if you see a pack of cigarettes sitting on the windshield wipers of a car, like that's going to stand out to you. and that means like you can buy drugs here. Just pull up to the curb, be out. But they're just waiting to they're spotting you out to see if you're a cop or you're going to try to rob them. It's like, so yeah, it's like, now that is something that would make sense. That would be a weird thing to see a pack of cigarettes, and people that weren't looking for that would drive right by it, but people that were looking for that would notice that right away. But yeah, I think the shoes around the power line is like, that's just something people do to be funny and weird. But if we put like dark meaning behind it, it's like, oh yeah.
But yeah, Rick showed up for the job, and he says like, yeah, you didn't say what the job was, so he's like extra desperate. But like Louis tries to sell, it's like, well, it's an internship, so you're gonna be starting off for free. And he's like, ah, man, I'm gonna need some money. So like Louis lowballs him. Well, he lowballs him for free at first, and he's like, I'll give you $30 a night, which that's just like, which I don't know how many hours. I mean, if he's working 6 hours a night, that's $5 an hour, so that's lower than minimum wage. But it's not like Lou's really following these business practices. It's not like he's getting them a 401k and all that stuff. So yeah. But they're also all independent contractors, so all that stuff's like up in the air. So, so we cut to Louis and Rick sit in the car waiting for the right call. So here we have like kind of like Lou's dismissing calls, like, nah, it's not worth it, or it's like, that's a poor neighborhood, it doesn't matter. Then eventually they hear a call for a fire, and so they race to the scene. Oh yeah, the thing that really sells them on hiring him is that he has a phone with GPS. So it's like, you're hired. Well, we also know that like Rick doesn't have a place to stay, or he's staying at a friend's house, or an aunt or grandma or something. So, but he doesn't have his own home. Which here he says like, so yeah, Lou kind of looks at him like, so you're homeless, which seems to kind of hurt Rick. Where it's like, well, I don't want to put it like that. I'm just kind of in a situation. So, which again, I don't know how Lou got his apartment. Like, it's a shitty apartment, but it's an apartment in L.A., so it's gotta be like too much money for whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what other things he had going on.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, it's just something that serves to propel the story. It's like, yeah, in reality, he'd be sleeping in that car, but
so yeah, they get a call for a fire. They race the scene. Rick navigates, but it's like poorly. Although it's like just kind of him like it's really just Lou just rushing him and blaming him. But there's like the weird thing where like he'll kind of yell at Rick for getting things wrong, but then like compliment him. Where it's like, come on, I see more potential than you see in yourself, which like feels like I feel like that's something I'd like to hear from an employer rather than them just constantly berating you for something. So, I don't know. Did you ever read A Message to Garcia?
No, I didn't.
Okay, do you know what that is?
No,
It's a very short story. It was written in like 1899.
Okay.
It's been widely dispersed and distributed as like kind of like a treatise on like self-motivation. But if you read the story, it's really about this shitty middle manager who just doesn't want to train people on how to do a job, and just wants to like, who would give a message to Garcia? We're like, I don't need to tell this person where Garcia is, who he is, or even where the message is or what the message is. You just tell them to do the job and they get the job done. And it's like, that's a fucking terrible way to run your business. You just want somebody to do all the hard work, and then you can sit back and collect the money or whatever. So, but yeah, many different like communism, capitalism, they all interpret it in ways where it's like positive. But I always see like a message to Garcia is like, well, it's like, yeah, the dude who's delivering the message to Garcia, like that dude's awesome, but everybody else in this fucking story is bullshit. So, and remember, that's the perspective that it's written as. So
yeah,
it's very short, but yeah, so yeah, like when I went to Virginia, I always said like, yeah, I'm just gonna message the Garcia this shit. So I'd like try to do like, yeah, I don't want to bother anybody and just try to figure out things myself. And then at the end of the trip, it's like, I really should have bothered people. This was a problem. So, So yeah, they get to the fire and like it's already put out. Like Joe is leaving the scene, like everything's already wrapped up, and then Joe makes fun of Louis for his like his consumer camera, like and so like Lou doesn't like that because Lou doesn't like me made fun of. Then we cut to Lou and Rick are racing to another call. Lou hops out and tells Rick to like park the car. So that's what gives him an advantage sometimes at scenes. We're just like, let's just park illegally. I'll get out, and then you go park the car legally. So, um, and then so yeah, they're like Louis moves to the scene. He kind of like interviews people, but they're like who the fuck are you? And this one lady, she says what's going on, and he says like, can you do that again without swearing? She's like, no, fuck you. I'm not saying that again. Um, and then Louis just kind of like quietly saunters into the house to get footage, and we see there's like bullet holes in the refrigerator, and then we see him stage the refrigerator to like put like the family photos near the bullet holes because he's like, he just doesn't explain it, just does it, and you know exactly what's going on here. Where it's like he just knows what's going to sell. Where it's like violence next to family. Um, and then he gets some. He also I think he turns out the light to kind of be more inconspicuous here, because this one where it's probably like what he's doing is probably illegal.
Yeah, it's messing with a crime scene.
um. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely illegal. I was more just thinking about him entering the house is probably illegal, but yes, definitely messing with the crime scene is definitely illegal. So, and then we cut to Louis shares the footage with Nia, who she thinks it's great. Franks thinks it's probably illegal because he's like, you just broke into that house and filmed. And he's like, no, I didn't. Somebody called for the house. I walked up. Someone was calling me into the house or something like that. He comes up with a good lie. What's that? Oh, they're calling out for help. Okay,
for help, and he wanted to see.
Um. So yeah, we see some of the footage where like we see him shoot through the window, but we don't see the other side. Now we see the footage where he's like shooting. Because did anybody die in this, or is it like the whole family staying outside talking to the cops, and you can see like the bullet holes in the windows? So I don't know. Like nobody's dead. I can't remember. Is somebody dead in this here, or is it just like the place got shot up? I can't remember.
I've just remembered as a place getting shot up.
Okay. So yeah, he's filming like the family like through the bullet hole window. So he's like, yeah, this is great framing. But yeah, Frank is trying to. It's like, this isn't ethical, but Nina sides with Lou. So we cut to like it's like out in the newsroom, and Nina's like talking with Louis about like the business, and like because it's Lou, it gets creepy and like insincere. But also maybe there's an ounce of truth to it. Like this is where he like talks about like business stuff and like either stuff he made up or read online. I think it's also where he says like you can find anything online. So that's like, his he has no formal schooling, so that's where he gets information on is online. Oh yeah, I think like he says he took a business course online and
yeah, he's piecing all this motivational speech together from different sources like that.
Yeah. But this is also like, this is the same people where it's like they say that they took like a math class in Harvard because Harvard has like free like PDFs online of their classes, and then you can you can say that. It doesn't mean you actually did the work. You just want people to think you did. So
yeah, I mean, I've listened to hundreds of hours of professors giving lectures from schools like that about different things I'm interested in. Doesn't mean I went to Harvard. It's like I listened to a guy talk for 15 hours. Yeah, I learned some interesting stuff. But I also wasn't tested on what I learned. So.
Then we got a montage of Lou building his profile of crime and accidents. And then we cut to it's sometime later. We know that because Lou doesn't have his Tercel anymore. He's got a Dodge Challenger and like better scanner equipment and navigation tools. Which I don't know. Is this a specific Dodge Challenger, Nathan? Did you?
This is a. I just had it up. Where did it go? This is a 2012 Dodge Challenger SRT 392.
Okay.
So yes, this is a bigger engine.
Yeah, I remember that these. I'm not sure when they came out. Maybe this was new. I don't know. They didn't. This is like the only. This is like the only movie I can think of that has like a newer Dodge Challenger. Like I don't even think they put these in like the Fast and Furious movies. So this is kind of like the, kind of like the only version of it.
Yeah, they made those from 2008 until 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, none of the great Dodge Charger Challengers. They made cool cars for a while.
Yeah.
They're all now. They quit making them all. They still going to make electric cars that people are also going to like. It's like,
Yeah.
no one's going to. Anyone who wants a Challenger is not going to want an electric car.
Yeah, the Challenger had it had like cool lines to it, and it was clearly trying to be a throwback. Whereas like I always felt the Charger was like too safe in its look. It kind of just looked like a family car with a big engine in it. But they did put ridiculously huge engines in those Chargers.
Oh yeah, they're dangerous. They're rear wheel drive and they're fast.
Because they're like the Dodge Hellcat Charger with the Scat Pack, and it has like 900 horsepower or something crazy like that. So
yeah, my friend had one of those. Crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dodge's thing. It's like, let's make like a crazy car. It's like, is it quality? It's like, did you want quality or do you want a crazy car?
Yeah. Do you want reliable or fast? What do you want?
Although I actually hear like the Mustangs and those Chargers and even those Challengers, like you can kind of get them for decent prices now, and because they're rear wheel drive, they're actually like, not not terrible to work on because
no, they're not.
So
They're fun. I like them. I always like the Challengers. If I just never, I'm always stuck with like what's the cheapest car I can lease. But yeah, I always like the looks of those. And yeah, they are cool.
and also because like so many cars now are just SUVs that actually like these kind of like late stage muscle cars are actually like, well, it's a car. it's it's got like a back seat and everything. So yeah, they have better GPS and emergency broadcast scanners, which they have like 3 antennas on the back of this thing, so it looks all neat. Is that all just like is that all different? Is that all just different bands of whatever? For what's that all doing?
Most of that stuff, as I understand now, because I went and looked that up, and I know this was like from 12 years ago, but a lot of that stuff is fed through the internet now.
Okay.
So you just get apps, and they do repeaters and stuff. So yeah, what he was doing, that's why he had a laptop out, because he was just monitoring different things through that's how that works. I think he also had some actual radios just wired into the car too.
Yeah.
With different antennas.
They go to an accident in a rich neighborhood, and he's the first person on the scene. Like, not the first cameraman. There's like no police, no firemen, no ambulance. It's him.
It's him. Yep.
Him and Rick. And there's a guy like trying to call 911, but like Lou is harassing him. He's like, "What's going on here?" He's like, "Can you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to call 911," which is kind of weird because he heard the call for 911, so maybe somebody else called in from a different location. This guy's trying to, suss things out, or they're just that close. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we also see he has a better camera now. So yeah, that guy's distracted calling 911, and so like Lou just stages the scene by like dragging the body to a better spot in front of the car, which this is the part of no return.
Yeah, this is when the triumphal music begins to swell.
Yeah. Yes. It's like if you thought moving the pictures was like a little like, oh, that doesn't seem right. It's like, now this is definitely wrong. So So yeah, he gets a shot. Yeah. The Triumphant music builds. He gets his shot and then he just leaves even before the cops come in. We kind of hear them off in the distance, I think. Um, oh wait, no, we see like Joe show up and Joe gets mad because like he got beat to the scene. We cut to Louis talking with Nina. She notices a bunch of blood on him, which he just ignores. Is like, is it? I don't know. Lou asks her out on a date, and she doesn't appreciate that. It's like, yeah, I don't date coworkers. But he's like, well, that's good because I'm an independent contractor. So,
It's
uh,
good because yeah, I'm a contract. Yeah, you just this thing.
and like, I don't know why he wants to date her, or if that's he's just like, well, that's what successful people do. She says like, I'm like twice your age, and he's like, I like older women, which I don't know if that's true or not. So.
This is this human mimicry that he does.
Yeah. um, we cut to morning outside. Joe is waiting to talk to Lou. He actually gives him some like good advice about like, hey, people don't like drop off their footage anymore at the news station. Like they have like a like an FTP link up that you can put on a server and just drop it to the station, and so you can just keep doing your thing and then drop off your footage and get paid for it. Which is like, this is actually good advice because like Joe's trying to sweet talk him. He's like, hey, I'm opening up a second van. You could be that van. Like, but then but Lou wants nothing to do with that because he finds satisfaction in running and owning his own business, which we have, which, you know, with his new car and scanners, we're assuming is doing well, but we actually have no idea. So,
Yeah,
we don't. I mean, he does say he has to go home and do accounting, so, he's running the business. Uh, but or you know, or that's euphemism for something else. So, um, here we get the name drop of the movie Nightcrawling. So like basically that's like waiting for, you know,
something
emergency
bad.
calls. Yeah,
Yeah,
at night. Which again, I don't know if that's like a real thing. I assume it is. I don't know. So I don't know how much this is close to reality of like, you know, the stringers live or whatever it's going on here. But again,
I have no idea. I tried to do some research, but not a lot came up. So
yeah,
I'm assuming this is all just in service to a story.
yeah,
It's like there's elements of truth to this. I'm sure there's guys that go around at night with video cameras in huge metropolitan areas and wait for bad things to happen. But I don't know how many they are and how successful they are, and I hope they're not,
yeah.
you know,
Well, it's like
antisocial personality disorder.
well, you figure if this is a big enough thing, you would like, here's the world's best stringer, but like, hey Nathan, do you know one stringer?
Nope.
Do you know any of the paparazzi guys that are selling photos?
Just from TMZ, you know, those guys.
Yeah, but that's like the on-screen TMZ people. That's not the people getting the footage.
Yeah, no, I don't know any
Yeah,
of
we
these.
don't know any of the people getting the footage. So, yeah, this is just like a whole anonymous industry, which I'm guessing is maybe full of a lot of people have done time in prison. So.
It'd be cool to do a ride. Like if I could find people like, hey, does this happen in Detroit, and just do a ride along? Because I mean, that would be dark over there. Problem is, it would all be poor people killing each other, which, you know, it would violate the woman's rules in this movie about, you know, it's not creeping into the suburbs yet.
Yeah. Let me cut to it's dinner time with Nia, which Louis just like creepily compliments Nina, which again, like, yeah, this, you're talking about him being an alien. This is like his most alien like, where it's like women enjoy compliments, correct? So, um, but Louis has his mindset on Nina as like some sort of companion, where it's like, I don't know. I don't think Lou can feel love, but I think he knows it's a bargain thing to be bargained with.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of manipulation opportunities.
Yes.
So this is the way to go.
um but here's where we get kind of like, where like Lou breaks down like how the whole news business works here, and like news stations and like their ratings block or whatever and stuff like that. um he, like, you know, pulls out that like they're the lowest rated news station in LA, and that she hasn't worked in a place for longer than 2 years, and she's coming up on her second year, and Sweeps is coming out. Um, so it's like oh, and and as far as we know, he's only exclusively sold footage to this news station and nowhere else.
Yeah.
Like this is the only place he has a relationship, and like it seems to be on purpose so he can like leverage that later on. Because like, well, he can go somewhere else, but yeah, I think also he says like he alone, because they talk about like people watch the news to like learn about like what's going on with the local constituency and government and stuff like that. And he's saying how like the average newscast does like 3 minutes of that, and the rest of it is just crime.
Yeah.
And so he's like basically like, I am filling like 75% of your airways with my footage. So I have the leverage here, and he uses it fully to basically like blackmail's not the word, but like coerce her into a sexual relationship. Um it's not quid pro quo, like he's just
Leveraged relationship.
yes.
Yeah.
Something that seems wrong and illegal. So
Well, it's not based on any sincere mutual respect or sympathy or anything like that. In his mind, it's simply a means to an end.
yeah.
And it's apparently an end he's not even that satisfied with, as later dialogue reveals, but it's just him doing it.
Yeah, is this the same where he talks about like basically insinuating like she didn't want to do the sex stuff he wanted to do, so he's like, you need to start doing that
later scene or
okay.
something. It's like, you need to do the things I suggest when I suggest them. Like that. And it's like, oh,
yeah, and he says something about, like, in my apartment at night or something like that. So this also where he reveals that like they're getting ratings from putting out like crime footage, but because crime is actually going down, his footage is becoming rarer and rarer, and it makes it more desirable to fill their narrative they need to build. It's like, oh wow, this is just all kinds of evil. It's like now even Nina's not. She does no. I mean, she already lost like journalistic ethical ethical what do you call it, ethical journalism long before this scene, but then you see it's like even more nefarious where she needs ratings, so she's also just lying to the public so they'll pay attention to her. So yeah, and then Lou keeps on the pressure and just basically threatens his way into a relationship with Nina, which that's how the best relationships are built.
yeah, those are the good ones.
We cut to Rick and Louie argue over navigation, and Rick's pay, because Rick wants more money because obviously they've like built more of a better business. But also like talking about like what he puts them on La Brea, which is like a curvy road in LA, but like he can't drive around people. But like Rick was arguing that like some other road was like under construction or something like that. So
one had more stoplights.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then then Lou just like basically like splits traffic on a curve and like nearly wrecks. Which Lou shows no emotion, but like Rick is terrified. Rick is constantly debating whether this is worth it, and then and because his position is so low in the world, it's like yep.
Yeah, gotta keep coming back for this.
I have nowhere else to go. Then they get to an airplane crash, and Joe's already there, but the cops already shut it down. The fire's been put out on the airplane. Joe makes fun of Lou again, where it's like, yeah, you should have joined me. And we cut to Lou comes to Nia with like poor footage for the night, so she gets pissed at him. Then we cut to like Lou's at his house, and he freaks out in the mirror when like Joe's footage was playing in the background.
Yeah, it was a cool scene.
And then we cut to, well, actually, I think it's morning when he does that, because then we cut to Louis goes and sabotages Joe's van. So this is how he's gonna get ahead. So probably, presumably does something to his brakes, and then that will come through later
Yeah.
on. Oh wait, no, this is where Lou's bombing through Laurel Canyon. Okay. So yeah, that other scene was like, yeah, it was there's less lights. Um, but this is where they get on the scene of the Mayhem van. That's Bill Paxton's, like, or that's Joe's name of his company, is like Mayhem Video or something like that.
Yeah.
It's crashed just directly into a pole. Rick is freaked out and like feels bad. He's like, "Man, that's one of us." And Lou's like, "It doesn't matter." so, so he just films like Joe being loaded up in the ambulance, where he's like kind of like looking at Lou as he is completely emotionless, and he's kind of like gurgling up. He's like, you don't know if he like thinks he's like directly at fault for this, but like, it's up for you to determine. I mean, it's a film. We put these scenes together for you to interpret that it's exactly what's going on, but who knows? But yeah, Lou just feels it like it's a regular accident, has no problem. He even created the accident. So it's like, well, it's an unfortunate thing, Rick, but we got to get the footage. So, then they're back out and they follow a call for a home invasion. This where they're really close to this one, so they get there first. Again, they are the first on the scene. No cops, no other reporters, no other stringers, no ambulances, no fire trucks. So Lou grabs his camera. He runs up to the house. We hear shots ring out, and then Louis gets footage of the shooters like leaving the scene. And then Lou sneaks up on the house, like filming his way in, and there's just like a shotgun like left on the porch. He films like a body that's like shot on a couch. He follows a blood trail upstairs. He films a baby room, which luckily there's no dead baby or anything like that. It's just anticipation.
Yeah.
He films a dead body on a bed upstairs, and then he films a guy who's like barely alive in the kitchen. Doesn't help them, doesn't call for assistance, just films them bloody. And then Rick and Louis like leave in a hurry and a panic, which like here it's like this is like the most emotion we get out of Lou, where he's like, "We got to get out of here, man!" like we're in trouble if we don't get out of here. And so yeah, he just backs into the driveway and speeds off before anybody gets there. Louis stops and uploads it. Like he pulls his laptop out and goes to the back. He tells Rick to stay in the car, and so he uploads the footage immediately to his laptop. Which I'm not sure if he edits it here, but yeah, he's keeping stuff to himself because we know he cuts some stuff out of it. Then we cut to Louis brings the home invasion footage late to increase his bargaining position at the news station. And so in the editing bay, they're like discussing how to legally show the footage, which they invite somebody in. I'm not sure if they're a lawyer or just like a director or somebody else, but they're like,
yeah, it seemed to be like someone from their legal department, but someone who's rushed. It's like, what's your fast decision on can we do this? And the answer is always going to somehow contort into yes.
Yeah, because they're like, well, just don't identify the bodies, blur out the gore or whatever, and then don't tell them where like the house is, and then like you're good to go. Louis and Nina have like a hard negotiation, and then just Nina just completely caves and like ends her freedom for like the rest of the movie. Because he's asking for like 50 grand or something like that, and then
it's a lot.
Which I think he gets like, he get like 20 grand out of her, and then just like a bunch of favors or something.
Yeah, it seems to be something like that.
Yeah, because this is where he sets up like you need to like shout out my name on air that I'm Video Production News, which is just like the most bland like piece of shit name for a company, but maybe I don't know if he's just like lacks imagination or it's actually like forward thinking, because it's like so tepid that nobody thinks that they do bad things. Because like Joe, he calls his company Mayhem, so like they do bad things. But like video production news, that seems like a legitimate news business.
Yeah, that's just so bland you can't even guess at what's going on.
So yeah, they have a reporter live on scene, and the cops want, and they air the footage, and the cops are like calling up and want to know who shot that footage, and like Lou's like, it's Lou Bloom, I did it, come talk to me. um, yeah, because he's just never worried. He's like, attention, I'll take that.
Yeah, all attention is good.
um. Then we cut to it's morning, and like Lou's watching all the news stations in the morning talk about the murders, because like only like it was at KWLA or something like that. They have the news footage, but everybody else is talking about it, but they don't have the news footage. So he's like satisfied with himself, and it's like, yeah, people are talking about the work I did, so I'm doing good work here. And then there's a knock at a door. It's a couple of detectives. He handles them well and creepily.
Yeah.
It's like, do I have to let you in? It's like, is there gonna be a problem? It's like, no, come on. It's like, what? Oh no, what's the other thing? Like, it's like, we're gonna need that footage. It's like, do I have to give it to you? It's like, is there gonna be a problem? It's like, no, I made a copy for you. So it's like, he's just
kidding. Passive aggressive, but not.
Then we cut to later, and Louis gets the info on the gunman, and he wants to track him down because he told the cops he didn't see them, which like we know he saw them. He has footage of their SUV and their faces, but he kept that out intentionally for he's gonna, this is bait for later on for more footage to be sold. So, let me cut to Lou picks up Rick and tells him exactly what's going on. Where it's like, I know the guys that did this. We're gonna go trail them, and then Rick is like, dude, this is illegal. It's like we're taking a business advantage. Lou's just able to like downplay this at all times. Rick knows exactly what's going on, but because he's able to get a raise out of it, where he's like, what's he asked for, like $70 a night, and then like he says, I could have got more, couldn't I? It's like, yep. And they just speed off. It's very funny. But he further negotiates. He wants half of tonight's cut, which seems to really like make Lou angry, but he kind of capitulates. So
yeah,
so I don't know.
He's the plan.
I don't know if this is a negotiation tactic that puts the death nail to Rick, but maybe, I'm not sure. It's like, you think if Rick asked for less money, he wouldn't have died?
No, I think he always saw Rick as like he knows too much.
Okay.
Or at least someone who wouldn't go along with everything seamlessly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he does mention at one point, it's like, I know you did bad things, and that's his negotiation tactic, which I think that's really what like pisses Lou off. It's like, you're right. You know things about me that you can use against me. I don't like that, so you need to go. Yeah, moments later, they see one of the murderers leading the FUV, and they follow after. They follow a guy, and he picks up the other murderer, which they're kind of wearing like Cosby sweaters or something. It's like,
yeah, it's like a weird, yeah. It's like, are they having bad sweater night at the killer? I don't know what that was all about.
Those guys head off. They keep following them through the night. They stop off at a gas station. They head off again. The guys park in an alley. And go to a restaurant, and so Lou like turns the car back around and parks on the side of the street. Louis calls the police to the restaurant and implies one of them has a gun. And then Lou wants to send Rick down the street for a different angle, which Rick doesn't want to go. He's like, well, he doesn't want to do anything Lou says, because he's like, no, you're just going to willingly put me in danger for your own benefit. Which, yes. So, you read the situation right. So Rick reluctantly goes along with it. Louis films from the car. The police start to pull up to the restaurant. They walk in and start talking to the counter people for a bit. And so they're kind of like have side eyeing the murderers here, which we see one of the murderers like pulls out a gun under the table, which like yeah, this like restaurant, this is probably like a real restaurant. I was probably famous. I have no idea, but it's got big glass, open glass, windows on the front, so you can basically see everything from the outside, and it's especially well lit on the inside, so you can basically see everything. It's very cool how they set this up, um, because like you never get inside like the restaurant, but you can just see everything from the outside.
Yeah.
Um, then we see more cops show up, and then when those cops show up, like the murderers just like open fire on the cops. The cops kill the bigger guy, but then the other guy gets shot, but he's like runs off in the SUV. Um, Rick gets back in the car and they follow the chase, which like Rick is like filming the chase while Louis like races along with the cops, or like trying to like chase down this guy. Like they're bumper to bumper with the cops. It's crazy. It's like like there's no way somebody's doing this for like news footage, but it's like it's like the climax of the movie here. So it's like and then let's see here. Oh yeah, so yeah, they run through a red light and the cop car gets T-boned, but like Louis is able to drive through and miss that. And then another cop car shows up and they're just kind of like banging with the SUV back and forth, and they just like wreck each other and flip each other over in like an intersection. Lou just like flips the car around, and then he walks up to the scene. He says the murderer is dead, and so like, and then he tells like Rick he needs to get this shot. And then when Rick goes up to like shoot the guy, like not shoot him, shoot him with a camera. The guy, like I don't know, I don't know why he does this. Maybe he's groggy, but he pulls out his gun and shoots Rick. And then he gets out of that guy gets out of the SUV, and like Lou's just like standing like near, like at the edge of the cop car and just filming it, and the guy just looks at him, doesn't do anything. It's like this guy is weird, and so he's just able to like, I don't know. He's like, seems like Lou perfectly like set up the situation to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, then the murderer like walks away from the SUV, and then other cops cars show up, and then Lou is able to film him just get like shot to death by a barrage of bullets from the cops. And then he walks up to Rick, who's still alive. And then Rick just calls out Lou for setting him up. And then Rick dies, and Lou takes his camera. It's like, oh man, it's like Lou's the most evil person in this movie, and we had literal murderers here.
At least they were passionate about it.
So have that being the end of Act 2. We got Act 3. Lou walks into the news station, and people know his name now because he's like forced Nina to take him around, like be introduced to everybody. He shows Nina the footage, and she's just amazed and like scared at it for her life. Like she just says everything positive here. She's completely capitulating to Lou at this point, but like you have to read that like this is terrifying to her because she's basically owned by a psychopath.
It's a completely evil man.
But she thanks him out loud. But it's just that's all survival dialogue. So. The cops show up trying to get Lou's footage from reaching the air, but they don't give it to him. He's able to say the right things, where he's like, "Yeah, I was just the right place, right time. Like I was just an observer. I had nothing to do with this."
Well, yeah, because when he calls the cops, he gives his name to the 911
Yes.
operator. Yeah, so he establishes it's like, yeah, I called 911. I did the right thing. I didn't exploit the scene in any way.
Which, yeah, like he directly says, I didn't see their faces, just shapes and movement. And here he says, like, I recognized the shapes and movement. It's like he's sewn up the lie. He made it work. So.
Yeah. Because you can actually say dumb things like that. Like they can't actually disprove how your mind works.
Yes.
In a court of law, they can't say, is it impossible for a human being to recognize someone else's movement at 10 yards? It's like we can't prove or disprove that. There's no like, it wasn't in the complete absence of light. It's so yeah, that's actually smart to say that.
Frank goes to Nina and explains the shootout at the house was like about drugs and not home invasion. So apparently, like the people at the house were selling drugs or holding drugs or something. Which Nina is like, yeah, that fights against my crime wave narrative, so we're not going to tell anybody that. So,
I just want to think that nice people who had a nice, gorgeous house in the suburbs got killed by lunatics from the city
yeah.
because that's yeah.
Then we cut to Lou's being investigated. Lou does a good job lying about the situation. The detective knows exactly who and what he is and exactly what he did, but can't prove anything. So
No,
Lou,
she knows it's bad. She knows what kind of guy. Because doesn't she tell her partner when they're walking away from the apartment or something? It's like, yeah, we know who guys like this are.
yeah,
They live like this. They talk like this. It's like we know who these people are. We just can't do anything about them.
yeah. Um, here we get like the first time Lou's mentioning his catchphrase. He says, "I like to say, if you're seeing me, you're having the worst day of your life." Like, and then he looks into the security cameras. uh, we got to Louis leaves the precinct. He's very happy with himself. Upbeat music plays like this is a victory for everyone. Like the world is now a better place.
Yeah.
Then we cut to it's night. Lou now has a couple of vans. So I feel kind of bummed. Like, oh, you're just ditching the Challenger. You got a couple of vans. Is that more prudent to hear? It's like I felt like the Challenger had the advantage of getting to the scene quicker. But
Well, I think because his side guy died,
yeah,
he's probably gonna like break people up into teams,
yeah.
and I don't know if he's gonna be as directly involved. We're not sure.
Well, he's
Well, he
got
does tell I would never do any. I would never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do.
yeah.
Which coming from him takes on like that's the worst thing that guy like that could
There's
say.
nothing he wouldn't do. So he's gonna ask anybody to do anything.
Like if you beat that kid's head in with a hammer and we say it happened in a car accident, that's going to be great footage. Like there's nothing this guy won't.
Yeah.
It's like we can get away with.
But yeah, so now he has 3 interns. So they're getting, and they look young, so they're probably out of college. Which again, like if you're working in LA and you're trying to get into video production, like this is probably what you have to do to get anywhere. So you got to start somewhere. They don't seem like off the street, like like desperate people like Rick was. They seem like they're from college or something. And so yeah,
Which makes them also better and more malleable.
yeah.
At least Rick was like, well, could not confirm or deny that he was having gay sex with people for money because he was desperate. Like these kids have like people are going to pay attention to what happens to them, but also they could be more manipulated because they're more naive, maybe.
Well, they might also have more like upper, like they might have good ideas that can bring to it. Where it seems like Rick was supposed to bring street smarts to the business and never really elevated above like Lou's street smarts.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick does point out there's I forgot the whole like where Rick points out like, hey Lou, you don't know how to treat people. You don't know how people think. Which kind of wounds Lou, but not really. It's like, well, but that's just me,
It's crazy that you would say that. I've noticed that about myself, but because he tells him, he goes, yeah, I don't understand what people want, which is, we've all felt that way at one point in our life. But with him, it's like, yeah, he just does not have that capacity.
But yeah, Lou hops in a van with one guy, and then 2 of the interns go in another van, and then they head in opposite directions, and we get kind of like a guitar sting, and get more shots of LA at night and credits. Yep. That's Nightcrawler, a brilliant movie. Just under 2 hours, perfect.
And they never played Don Henley's Dirty Laundry once. Whole movie.
I don't know that song. What like is that?
It's
explain the joke, Nathan. Sorry, I don't get it.
Don Henley, it was basically like his thing about LA news, like if it bleeds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let me look up the lyrics for that.
Which yeah, that's directly mentioned here. He because when like Nina's asking for like what kind of footage she wants, he goes, "So if it bleeds, it leads," and then she's like doesn't like that saying, so she just like basically like confirms it in a slightly different way. So if more misfortune happens to rich people, then that's what will give us more money. So
Yes, Dirty Laundry was a 1982 single track from Don Henley's Independent. I make my living off the evening news. Just give me something, something I can use. People love it when you lose. They love dirty laundry. And the chorus is kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. And then the verse two, the second refrain, well, I could have been an actor, but I wound up here. I just have to look good. I don't have to be clear. Come and whisper in my ear. Give me dirty laundry. And then it goes on and on. Like, the bubble-headed bleach blonde comes on at 5. She can tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye.
okay.
People die. Give us dirty laundry. Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down, which is a chorus sung by multiple people.
Okay.
So, yeah, essentially. And that's from like the early 80s. So.
Okay.
It's the same game, just
better
technology.
So is that LA specific or is that just general like news? Like
Don Henley's an LA guy. He's the lead singer for the Eagles. That was his solo career. So I'm assuming that's like.
Because I felt like there was a lot of LA stuff in the 80s, but
yeah.
All I can think of is "I Love LA" and then that song, but I'm pretty sure there's more. So
there's a lot of LA centric stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's actually like the coolest place in the world. It's just you can't afford to live there.
Yeah,
it's just like it's something to watch from afar. I've never been there, but it sounds like really cool. But it also sounds terrible at the same time. It's like it's nice to look at. Maybe don't ask too much about what's going on in the house. It's just beautiful to see from the outside.
That's like the I feel like that's actually the selling point of living in Las Vegas is because like they have all the stuff there. So if you want to see like cool bands and movies and all this stuff, it's all there. And yeah, it's like they have like huge roadways and all this stuff, public transportation.
Los Angeles?
No, Las Vegas.
Oh, Las Vegas? Okay.
Because there's only like just under 1 million people that live in Las Vegas, but like of course like over the year like tens of million people like vacation to Vegas.
It has a maintenance population and this massive tourist transient population that's in and out. Okay.
So if you're not gambling and you're not doing drugs and illegal things and you just want like access to cool stuff in your local neighborhood, like Las Vegas is a good place to live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's going to be crime, but it's not necessarily like crime in your neighborhood. It's like crime at the Luxor.
They broke up a prostitution and drug ring at the Bellagio. It's like, well, I'm not into either of those things, so cool.
Yeah.
That's for me.
I knew some wrestlers that lived in Las Vegas, but now they live in Columbus, Ohio, so maybe that doesn't work so well anymore. But
it's hotter than hell there sometimes.
Yeah. I think
a lot of the movies we've watched, like this one is one of them, and also Collateral, and I want to just drive through Los Angeles at night in a very fast car. I can do that and just get on a plane and fly back home and say, well, I did it. I had my LA movie experience. I drove like a Mustang convertible at 180 miles on the freeway, and it's like I got it out of my system.
Let me see let me do a quick roll up and see if there's other LA centric stuff that we've done before. I mean, there's so much stuff there. It's got to be, but
yeah, that's where movies are made.
Yep,
that's where the magic happens.
Southland Tales was especially LA.
Yeah, yeah.
Last Action Hero, I think a little bit, or actually, maybe mostly a bit. I mean, I guess that's a movie, a commentary on LA, so I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Was In Time in LA? I cannot remember.
For some reason, I thought that was in the Midwest.
Okay.
Because of the depressive dreariness of the buildings and stuff. That seemed very Midwest to me.
Where was Constantine? Was that
LA.
L.A.?
Had to
Okay.
be. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I mean, almost every Quentin Tarantino movie. Um,
was Miracle Mile L.A.? That was L.A., right?
that is LA.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I thought.
There's one in
Threads, Nathan. That was L.A., right?
Reds.
Yeah.
It's some
No.
depressing Hamlet in the UK.
Yeah, there's weirdly like threads came up and something like they're like rebroadcasting it to like basically like yeah, nuclear war has been closer it's ever been. We need more people fearful about it. And weirdly, it's like our third most downloaded show on the podcast, and I don't know why. It must just hit some search algorithm accidentally or something.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like nobody's commented on it, so it's not like it's like this is a hit.
Yeah, you guys really captured the essence of this. It's like, and also remember, I used some of the material to protect and survive when we were doing the COVID broadcasts. So that might have like steered it towards that too when we finally talked about threads.
Yeah.
Because remember, I used to have the intro and I'd play, and it's like, "There's danger outside."
Yeah.
Talking about Fallout, I just cut that out. I know Dad thought that was really cool.
Drive was LA, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. What about Buckaroo Banzai? That's actually more of a road movie, but was some of that in LA? I know the end is like the cool end scene. We're getting in the LA River.
Yeah.
Oh, the hidden was LA, right? That was LA, right?
Yeah. That's the bank robber culture of LA.
Do you remember the first Power? Was that LA? I can't remember.
I think so.
Okay. Cherry 2000.
Chicago.
It might have been.
I'm not sure. I think it was LA.
Cherry 2000. Was that a future LA? I can't remember.
Don't know. Think so.
Okay.
I mean, anything from the 80s and 90s was definitely like.
Yeah, it's just like, well, that's where all the stuff's shot, so you know it's going to be there. But you know, there's plenty of stuff where it's like it was shot in Canada, but they just wanted to give the LA vibe, and that's what they did.
Oh yeah.
Although usually Toronto tries to siphon off the New York vibe, so I'm not sure how many Canadian productions try to be LA, but I know they've tried it. So.
Oh, Vancouver can look very much like LA.
Well, I remember when the X-Files was successful enough, they moved the production from Vancouver to LA, but people kind of harken that as being like the end of the X-Files. You know,
yeah.
Like it was still good, but the investment wasn't there anymore.
Well, the X-Files was fun because like we'd be watching it and Dad would point out, it's like, yeah, they're in Iowa. See the mountains in the background? Oh yeah, somewhere in Canada. They're just like, no, we said this is Iowa. It's like, yeah, Iowa's known for its mountains.
Blue Thunder was LA, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Because there are people having sex at night. And only do that in LA.
Yeah, and like, yeah, and police choppers and news choppers, that seems to be kind of like almost exclusively LA. Like I know they have choppers like kind of everywhere. But I remember, like, we used to have a bunch of choppers here, but now we don't have any. Now it's just medical choppers. But we don't have police or news choppers here anymore.
Nah, it's too expensive to run them.
Yeah. Not when you just get everything off a Ring camera.
Yeah. You don't need to, like, chase down the... I mean, LA is kind of made, like I said, and when I say LA, I'm talking the entire greater metropolitan area.
Yeah, which is very large.
Almost 20 million people. Yeah, the whole rings of that area. That's like tailor made for like news choppers. They have massive freeways there, just go on forever. Like that's where the crazy car chases, like that's all that stuff's from there, because it's like the highways just go on for miles and miles and miles. And being on, it's like you're going to get caught anyway, but it's like, well, give them a good show. Drive that car as fast as you can. Drive a Corolla at like 120 miles an hour and just get run down by police cruisers and just bash the car to pieces.
Jackie Brown, that was LA.
Yeah.
I think it was Inglewood that the one guy, the Samuel L. Jackson character, had one of his safe houses in.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
That's the other kind of. I'm not sure if it's Compton. It might be a more upper class Compton, but it's also like there's crime everywhere in LA. So I guess.
I don't know much about like the. I don't even know much about Metro Detroit, and I've lived here 25 years. So
White
yeah, I
Man
don't.
Can't Jump. That was LA, right? Okay. So yeah, it's like every other movie is basically that was L.A. Strange Days is L.A., right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Future L.A.
Stated it. Yeah, I know. I think they were open about it.
Oh, The Getaway. Where was that? I can't remember. I don't think that was L.A. They kind of moved around in that movie. American Graffiti was California, but it wasn't L.A. Tower Inferno, that was L.A., right?
I think so.
Or was that like some Chicago
No,
stuff?
is that New York? I don't know.
Oh, was it New York? Oh, right, yeah, because they had like I can't remember.
Yeah, but almost every other movie. 50% of all movies that are set in like modern times.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of Chicago stuff here. So,
Yeah, there is a lot of
because we had like Risky Business, Blues Brothers. Um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's in Chicago.
yeah, and like all the Friedkin and Scorsese stuff, that's all New York or the East Coast, depending.
Oh, wait, Demolition Man. That was L.A., right?
Yeah, that was LA.
Okay. Yeah. See, Speed, super L.A.
That was like the that was like the tourist board of LA for a while. Come on our dangerous roads.
Heat was L.A., right? Yeah, that was L.A. Yeah, yeah. No, that's not L.A. Collateral is definitely L.A. So yeah, but yeah, like every third movie we do is like it takes place in L.A. But again, that's like like I heard like I forget what the budget on this movie is, but it feels like it'd be like a $40 million movie, but I think it was actually like 12 or
15.
something. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was
it's pretty
15
low.
with promotions. Yeah, it made 80 million
Yeah, yeah.
back. So
And it got did it win an Oscar or was it just nominated?
I think it was just nominated.
Who beat it? This better be a great movie that beat it this that year. So that'd be the 2015 Oscars. It better not be some bullshit.
They might have done a period piece. When did the Oscars start becoming like super weird? Is that like 2018, 2020?
I don't know. If you listen to like Al Pacino, like he was basically like the Oscars were a joke until like they like made money in like the 90s. so so
Birdman was the big winner that year.
okay,
Won,
fuck that movie.
won,
Nightcrawler should have won. I don't know. Disagree with me, Nathan? Do you think there was a better movie than Nightcrawler this year?
no, I Nightcrawler was it's a favorite of mine.
Did you go to the movies to see Birdman?
No, but I'd
Okay.
go to the to see Nightcrawler.
See, fuck Birdman.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with Birdman. I just like Nightcrawler better.
Yeah. American
Nightcrawler
Sniper.
has a great trailer too.
What's that?
Nightcrawler has a great
Oh,
trailer
yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was the nominees were American Sniper, which that's a fine movie, doesn't really deserve an Oscar. It made a lot of money, so who cares?
It's a feel good movie.
Boyhood, that was kind of almost just like the production getting an Oscar for the production because they shot that over like what 10 years or something to like so this kid would actually grow up throughout the movie.
Oh, okay.
Grand Budapest Hotel, I never seen, but it's a Wes Anderson movie, so it's probably fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes I like his movies. Sometimes I don't.
what's The Imitation Game?
That was the one about the guy who invented the supercomputer that broke the Enigma code.
Okay, I thought that, but I thought that had like, oh, this is the producers. I was like, wasn't that a? a Benedict Cumberbatch, but
Yeah,
like, but they're listing the producers here, so that's why I was like confused. I was like, I don't know any of these people are in the movie. So.
I believe that was about Alan Turing. Yeah,
Selma, I forget what that was. I think it's
I know what Selma is. I don't know about the movie. That's a civil rights
yeah.
resistance thing that happened.
The Theory of Everything. I don't even remember what that is.
Nope, don't have any.
Whiplash, I know of. That seems like it's a good movie. I'm supposed to like. That's like the drummer movie where he's like plotting to kill the teacher. That's awful. It's like
Oh yeah, James. What's his name?
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons plays another psycho, like teacher.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie. I've just seen clips of it, and this seems like a good movie, and just never watched it. So, have you
I've
ever
heard
seen?
that referenced as no, I've never watched it, but I've heard a lot of references to it about like inappropriate motivation and like bad corporate speak is like, yeah, that's what this guy embodies.
Okay.
It's like a lot of those sports metaphors about like be driven in all things, regardless, or kill yourself. And it's like, yeah, that's a great message to give to kids.
Yeah, it looks like Nightcrawler just got nominated for the script, which got beat out by Birdman. So
Okay.
I remember I tried to watch Birdman and I just lost interest in it. So.
It flew over my head. I never like.
Well,
Something.
I didn't even watch that like bear attack movie that guy did next. I just don't watch this guy's movies for whatever movie.
Yeah, I don't.
Because he did that one with like what's his name, Leonardo DiCaprio, where he gets attacked by the bear.
The Deliverance. No,
the Revenant or something like that.
Revenant's actually a good movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I did enjoy that movie.
Is that like a 3-hour movie or is it?
Yeah, it's really long.
Okay, yeah, that's probably why I just skipped over it. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think Nightcrawler should have won. Because to me, like Nightcrawler, like I'm putting it up there with Taxi Driver. So obviously, I think this is a like fantastic movie.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of good to it. It's kind of like.
Do you think it's got its deserves, or do you think this is like understated?
Become a cult thing.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that talk about this movie all the time. It definitely made an impression on me, and I've seen it like 4 or 5 times. So
okay. And how often do you do that in modern times? How often do you watch a movie multiple times?
Almost never.
Okay.
It's like
there's nothing to go back for.
No.
This movie there is. So
I mean, there's very few sci-fi movies that I'll watch more than once or twice. So yeah, no, I've watched this a lot and I enjoy it. I also enjoyed the soundtrack to it.
Was anybody we know that did it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just like the way it worked in the movie. It's not something I would listen to independently. It just worked very well in the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily stand out, but it works wherever it is. So
well, it stands out because it's inappropriate. Like
the uplifting stuff stands out, but it's like intentionally so. Where it's like,
but I noticed that the first time I watched it, and no one had to point that out to me. Like this rising crescendo in the background is completely. It's like no, I caught that right away. It's like you did it well because it didn't fly over my head.
So yeah, where are we? We're sending a probe into space containing the supercut of the scenes that are from the Imperfect Collection. That is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from Nightcrawler are we shoving into space?
It's going to be the scene where Nina is giving him advice.
Okay.
In the studio the first time when he's becoming the Nightcrawler. Sony Handycam or whatever he's using.
Yeah.
He's like, your equipment sucks. Get a boom mic. Do this. Do that. And also when she's talking about we need, the narrative here is crime seeping into the suburbs.
Yeah.
We need poor people committing crimes against people in the suburbs or just having car crashes. Anything that makes the rich people in the suburbs unsteady or feel unsafe. That's what we're selling. I love that scene because it's true. It's actually what's going on. No one can say like, this is overstated. This isn't actually what's going on. It's like, no, this is exactly what's going on. Yeah, it's still, if you live, like I live in a major metropolitan area, not a great one, but I live in one, and it's like, yeah, they still push this kind of stuff around here. I know a lot of local news has retreated into like repackaged stuff from larger venues, but yeah, like this movie resonated with me. It's like, oh yeah, they're trying to scare the hell out of you, especially in Metro Detroit,
Yeah.
which has always been the suburbs versus the city. Like it's the original suburb city area.
Yeah, because
So
that like the only like thing that ever countered that, because like from the outside, it's like Detroit, it's just a war zone, just
yeah,
avoid it. And then like some hipsters went in there and made some donut shops out of like abandoned high schools, and it's like, oh, this doesn't seem like necessarily the scary place it's always presented as.
no,
Or what's that book, Detroit: An American Autopsy?
yes, which
Um,
was written by one of the local news guys. Worked at the Fox 2 News before. What's his name? Charlie Liddell. I'm not sure which one he was. We talked about it though on the podcast years ago.
yeah. But I mean, was that necessarily about the crime or just the crumbling of a city? Charlie LaDuff?
Charlie LaDuff. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just about what happened and why it's the way it is now.
Okay.
And and that was like at the bankruptcy of Detroit. Like that's when that it's like, oh, a major city went bankrupt. And then you find out it's like, it's not really so much a major city anymore because half the people have left since 2000. Like it's like, it's a very short time. And my impression of it for a long time was always a place to stay away from. But now that like my son and his friends, like they're over there all the time.
Okay.
He's taken me back. He's like, yeah, you should eat here. You should do this. And of course, my wife is like scared.
Well, also, there's so many great sports teams there that you have to imagine, like, well, these are people paying like a lot of money for a ticket. And it's like, well, obviously they're just victims in waiting, but you don't see like footage of like people escaping Detroit from the Tigers game or something like that. But
it's now, well, that part of it is very well policed.
okay.
When you go to those events, like you're paying this guy, his name's usually Ahmed or Nadir or something. It's like, you park here, $30. It's like, cool. He's going to watch your car. He's going to sit in a box with a shotgun and watch your car. And he's going to park way too many people in the lot. And when you come to get your car, he's like, okay, my brother, he will move. We put car here so nobody pull in and steal car. And so it's like, oh, that's why all these extra cars are parked behind me. It's like, these are your cars. I don't want anyone, because you bought this parking lot for like $50,000 or something. And every sporting event, you charge people $35-$40, and you're going to stand here with a shotgun and watch their car. So it's like, if you do the right things, you're fine. It's like paying a deer. That's just a tax you pay. Shoot anyone that comes for your car. And if he does, guess what? You have no legal obligation or watch your car. And then, but yeah, don't park on the street because they're going to go through your fucking car. I mean, modern cars, it's worthless. There's no radio to steal. They have advanced security systems. If you come out and your car's not there, you just call the police and like, well, here's the GPS transponder. And it's like, yeah, we got it. The people they'll steal your tires and rims. That's the worst thing that'll go on. Those are cost a fortune. But yeah, it's all, so it's fine. The sports areas are fine.
Okay.
It's not a place to go hang out. I mean, it is, and it is. Look, if you want to go there and look for trouble and say shitty things to people, it's like, yeah, bad stuff's going to happen to you. But if you're cool, they're cool. Everything's fine. It's like, hey, I'm here to spend money. And like, oh, cool. Yeah, come on over.
I feel like the secret bad places are like Gary, Indiana, where it's like, what's there to tourists? Like nothing. It just seems like violence is produced there, and lots of people live there for some reason.
Now, Detroit has a certain resonant cultural value. A lot of great music has and still comes out of there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool restaurants. It's a cool place to go see because it's just an old city. It's a city that was built at a very different time in American history, and it still kind of retains that. Places like Gary, Indiana, it's like, oh, nuclear weapons are clearly in order. There's a bunch of giant like industrial mills polluting everything, and I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people just live there because they love violence. I mean, I'm more nervous in Chicago than I am in Detroit. Okay. maybe it's just because I've lived here longer. I know all the streets, but it's like Chicago, I would not fuck around in. Also, I have a license to carry a handgun in Michigan. Cannot do that in Chicago. So maybe that's another reason where it's like, well, if worst came to worst, I could shoot back here. And they kind of have a culture of like, oh, did he fuck with you? It's like, yeah, he tried to rob me. It's like, what did you do? Shoot him? It's like, good for you. Yeah, that's what you do. That's kind of the attitude here. So
You can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE, 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Nightcrawler?
oh, clearly a 5.
Yeah.
Clearly a 5 because we found our soulmate in Lou Bloom. Yeah, I don't understand people either. Yeah.
That's why I broadcast it on the internet.
Yeah.
You can find our podcast at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. Either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Cancel anytime. Lobby's open. Be the first to enter.
Yeah.
Become a member now.
Yeah, don't wait. Get in early.
You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of your choice that you're listening on. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, give us the highest rating so we can, contort the AI, consortium that is killing the internet ever close. We're not auto. This is produced content. We did a thing. So.
Yeah, this is an AI talking to you. You can tell.
I'm laughing too much. Too many ums. Even when I edit all that stuff out, there's still too much of that. But oh well.
I'm talking about spelting in India for some reason.
That's just Greed Factory bleeding in. It's like we haven't done one in a while, so it's just like let's sidetrack in a while. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. Find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect, and you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.